Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I couldn't transition over to my mic, couldn't transition over to my video, my intro video. So sorry about that. But welcome to Case by Case. This is a Thursday night live. It's a special edition to the Delphi Vault. I have a special guest, which I think many of you who follow the case are very familiar with. Skip is here. We are going to talk about a lot of things. And, him and I may not agree on everything, but our research independently is going to come together and make everybody understand that there's way more going on here behind the scenes than what we saw at trial, pre trial, all that jazz. So give me 1 second and I'm going to pull Skip on. There he is. Hey, Skip.
Hey, Amy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into this. We know for a long time who your person of interest is, DP. I will be the first to say it, Daniel Pearson. Yeah. And so now, without further ado, let's just get into the semantics of everything. So now that the trial has happened, we have trial transcripts, and we know what the testimony was from Cheyenne, Shelby Hicks, and we never heard from Daniel Pearson. What are your thoughts on Daniel Pearson as your POI or as someone who saw a bridge guy?
Well, it's changed a good bit over the years. I guess to go back, I started following the case in 2000, August of 2020, and not long after that, I was on a little less than a year. I was on a podcast, True Crime Garage, and and put out a theory based on a person of interest that I thought had his story had changed and never added up, and was just trying to delve into that to see exactly what to make of it. And it turned out to be a lot bigger uh, deal than I ever suspected. But yeah, I wouldn't call him a person of interest. I'd call him a someone who played a critical role in the investigation, and that story hasn't been told correctly.
Hmm.
Um, and and the I guess the how the importance of it all is that without knowing his role in the investigation, you can't understand exactly what happened uh, that day or the days following, and it's particularly the first 2 years of the investigation with law enforcement. Um, we know about the 70 days of lost stuff. We know about the first week or uh, thing, whether they were taped over or just lost. Um, and a lot of his stuff falls into that. So, and we'll discuss that as we go. But trying to, as you know, when we talk, trying to find the truth to all this is difficult because there's so much misinformation. I think that's something important for everybody to remember. Whether you want to call it misinformation or disinformation, whether you think it's intentional or not, there's been a ton of it, and it's been pretty intentional. So what's the reasoning why they want to keep everybody off the correct path? And that doesn't exclude law enforcement from that as well. So um, anyway, we'll talk about that as we go.
So I hear an echo for myself, and I have a couple of people in chat saying they hear an echo. I don't know how to fix it. Uh,
You think
this
it's my
cannot
end? Is really happening?
happen. This cannot happen.
Is
I
it
have
my end or
switched to
your end or?
safety. It's my end. No, it's all on my. I can hear it on my end. It's an echo. Hold on. God.
And to everybody out there, hey to everybody. If I don't say something immediately, it's not that I'm ignoring you. It's trying to look at all the comments and go through this because I'm trying to look at things, notes and things as well. So I apologize ahead of time.
There's.
But I see a lot of familiar faces. All eyes on Delphi. It's always good to see her.
Yes.
R&M the same.
Yes. My girl, all eyes.
Yep, she's good. She's one of the best. There's no doubt about that.
So okay, I'm gonna talk. Do you guys still hear an echo from me? Oh my gosh, this can't happen. It cannot happen.
Is it a new microphone or something?
No, it's no. I've had it for like over a year. It's a nice microphone. I can't. But when you and I were talking earlier, I kept hearing it. Oh my gosh. Hold on 1 second.
I see.
Because this can't happen.
Michael's saying the chat's cranky.
I don't think so.
That's that's pretty. Yeah. Maybe it's because he's around.
No. So does this sound better? Because
I'm
really,
yeah.
really quick, everybody in chat, put a 1 if this sounds better. Oh my God. Okay. Now they're saying you're echoing, Skip. Okay. I don't think you're echoing.
What about now?
I don't think so. I think now I feel like when I'm talking, I don't hear myself talk.
Well, I guess we'll just have to power through, and
All eyes says
maybe
Amy in the
maybe everybody
studio.
will be able to understand. It's usually my accent that people can't understand.
No, your accent is amazing. I love your accent. I think a lot of people do.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so as long as I'm not hearing myself echo, I think everybody skip be knowing things. It'll be okay, y'all. Turn off YouTube. Street, stop telling me to turn off YouTube. Amy, you sound like you're far away now. Oh my God.
Yeah, I can hear myself.
Yeah, they're
You
saying
know.
now they're saying skip is echoing. What?
Belly may know I'm not from Oklahoma or Texas. I live in Florida, grew up in Alabama.
Jeez, oh Pete. Okay, let's try this. Y'all are messed up again. See, every time I talk, I hear like this.
I have StreamYard on, but not YouTube.
And I'm only in StreamYard and I have nothing open on YouTube.
Do you want me to try to run the my audio through my car again and see if that's better? You said it wasn't as good, but
No,
maybe it'll
no,
be better today.
because honestly, I don't think it's I don't think it's you. Okay, so someone says skip sounds fine.
Okay.
It's me, and I don't know why. Hold on. Let me just run some. Mm, this is awful.
you're not. I mean, you don't sound bad to me. I don't know what it sounds like to everybody in the audience, but you don't sound. You sound fine to me. Mine's just
Well,
kind of going back and forth. Sometimes it echoes, sometimes it doesn't.
when I talk, I can hear myself. It's like an echo, and it doesn't sound good to me. So
Okay.
no,
Well,
everybody's saying it sounds good. Everybody's
all
saying
right.
it sounds good.
Good. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, I don't even know where we were, but I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Okay.
And so,
Well, I think since the topic is really the timeline,
mhm,
I guess we'll start there and how when what's changed from my appearance on True Crime Garage back in 2021 till now. Um, uh, I guess the best place to start is a couple of weeks after we did the podcast. It was a 3 episode thing. We didn't know it was going to turn out to be as long as it was, but after that, they received uh, the captain and Nick received two emails and from two of DP's friends, a phone call, and another email from Cheyenne. And what the basis of what they were saying was that we were wrong. And during the podcast, well, let me digress a little bit. It was originally thought that DP got, based on comments that he had made through other people, that he had got there at 3 o'clock, had was with this mysterious girl, had walked slowly toward the bridge, uh, and saw someone. It was some people, speculated that it was McCain and all that, but anyway, we got those emails and phone calls, and they were basically saying, "Hey, you've got the time wrong. DP got there at 1:30." And we said, "How, where'd you get the time?" And so the captain responded to him. He contacted me. He said, "What should I say?" Just say, "Hey, listen. The reason we're saying that is because that's kind of what the known information is." And they said, "No, no, no. You got it all wrong. He was there at 1:30." And you know, just basically saying that our timeline we were giving out was wrong, but we were trying to explain that we were just going with what we knew, or the known information was. And so we verified these people and found out they were friends of his. And
mhm,
actually, the one phone call they got said that he had left by 2 o'clock. This is something that the captain's talked about on some of his shows. He's done. He even did a podcast with Murder Sheets where he explained all of that, and he also explained that one of the things that we did prior to releasing the episodes is we decided we were going to call law enforcement and tell them that, hey, if we were doing anything to accuse an innocent person, we told them what the content was going to be, and if we were doing anything to accuse an innocent person or jeopardizing the investigation, we would pull it. We would not. They would not be released. Well, 6 or 7 emails, 4 or 5 phone calls were never returned, so we went ahead and they went ahead and released it. Um, and I kept the information about 1:30 in the back of my mind, just because I was trying to, I didn't really know what to make of it, or why they were saying why that was something that was beneficial to DP or whatever, but because that's the way it came across. Uh but we did that, and we also we let's see, what's the best way to put this. Well, let me just say this: we talked. It was Tobe. It was Carroll County who we're trying to get in touch with to let them know that, hey, again, we won't release this. So our intentions were that we weren't trying to do anything to harm it. We were trying to show a theory that I had explained to them, and they thought was interesting. And what it was based on was someone known to be at the trails that day, someone who had come forward as a witness. Uh, Someone who, and it was all based on basically what law enforcement had told us. You know, they had said, "Hey, this is likely someone we've talked to." Um, and not long after the press conference of 2019, they released a new sketch, and so all of that was based on things that law enforcement had said, and so and how I came to the basis of the core of the theory was that it was basically about deception. It was someone who thought they had been seen. The reason for that was there were two sketches, so obviously there was at least two witnesses, right? So
Hmm.
if someone had seen them, it was likely this person had seen the witnesses as well. So they'd come forward, try to get ahead of it, hey, explain themselves. Um, and so we went forward with it. And like I said, a couple weeks after, we got the information that changed the timing of, or changed the timeline from his getting there at arriving at 3 o'clock with this mysterious companion to getting there at 1:30. Um, and as it went along, and I guess this was the first time that Shelby Hicks's name had actually been, because the companion was, I mean, it was really mysterious. People didn't have a clue. It started out supposedly he was with his fiance Skylar, and then it changed. It was a mysterious girl, and nobody would say who it was. And so um, when that was revealed, a lot of strange things started happening, as we'll get to. But uh, that was basically how the new timeline of 1:30 came about. And then with, I'm sure you've shown, and I think you've shown the vault, Shelby's grandfather talking about the same thing, that she arrived at 1:30 with this coworker that went to law enforcement a day or two after, was grilled for 5 hours by the FBI, did a sketch, um, all of those things, and those things corroborated things I'd heard in the past. But basing everything on known information, and what I guess would be considered fact, is that's four pieces of information that say, hey, and from friends and family, that would be considered good uh, witnesses, that said, hey, they got there at 1:30. That was more than any other time I could verify. So I started looking into the validity of 1:30, and what that would mean to how the investigation played out.
Well, when you talk about all the like all the people that were there, and especially, do you hear that echo? That echo is killing me.
I don't hear it.
I do. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. I sound like I'm on like a static radio.
You sound fine to me. I don't know.
Well, I hope I sound fine to everybody else. So this is so aggravating. So with Daniel Pearson being on the trail, and all of the different, I can't even talk because I hear myself echoing. What is going on?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't hear, but I know how you feel when you get that playback in your of
No,
yourself. It's hard to do.
it sounds like static. Hold on. I have to do something. I have to make a change.
Well, here I'll continue talking a little bit then till you get maybe straightened out. Well,
I don't.
how this is played out until uh, nowadays, modern day, or whatever you want to call it, is current day, real time, is we didn't know about the witness Betsy Blair, right? And we didn't know about her seeing someone in his 20s with poofy hair, tall in his 20s with poofy hair, uh, clean shaven, on the bridge that day at 1:50, 1:55, close to 2 o'clock anyway. So that was never put together until the PCA was released, and we were made aware of that. Nobody was aware of her as a witness. Now the 1:30 time frame that Daniel Pearson's friends and Shelby's grandfather corroborated, all of a sudden has a totally different meaning, right? Because she said the guy that she saw, again, tall, poofy hair, clean shaven, in his 20s. There was only one person there that day in his 20s known to be on the trails, and that was DP. If he had gotten there at 3 o'clock, like originally was thought, then it's fairly insignificant. If he's there at 1:30, now he fits her description exactly. He's tall, poofy hair, in his 20s. Like I said, he's the only person in his 20s there that day. How likely is it that he's the person she saw? Because she's describing him to a T. Not to mention her sketch is very similar to him, and she described it as a 10 out of 10. I know there's been a lot of pushback, and there's everything in this case there's a cloud of contention involved with everything. Nothing makes it. That's why there's so much ambiguity. Nothing's clear. Now people come and say, well, she was actually so and so many feet away, so she really didn't get a good view. Look at him. Well, she said it was 10 out of 10. She either did or she didn't. I mean, she apparently she was their star witness. She must have gotten a pretty good view. But one thing that struck me ever since the PCA was when you look at the events, her circumstances that day, is one thing I couldn't get out of my head was, how does law enforcement have a witness, the only witness who likely saw Abby and Libby, saw them walking directly in the path of a man standing on the bridge near at 2 o'clock? How was she disregarded? Why was she disregarded for the first 2 years? Her sketch wasn't the sketch of record, right? That wasn't released for 2 years. So what circumstances would allow law enforcement to disregard the only person who saw the girls and walking directly in the path of a guy standing on the bridge, right? I mean, there's no way, if law enforcement had that information when she came forward, which was very early, that wouldn't have been investigated. But for some reason, they didn't release the sketch, and that person wasn't nearly as interesting to them as the person that was seen leaving Freedom Bridge. But we'll get into that. But for some reason, that they would. I mean, there's no way they would not have investigated who that was. That wouldn't have been a loose end. They just wouldn't have tied up some guy standing on the bridge at 2 o'clock. And so, well, she saw some younger guy. They either believed that was somebody, that they knew that was somebody, and which I think is probably likely, because I mean, I can't think of any other good reason why they would disregard her from the
Well,
beginning.
if you take Betsy Blair's account as factual, and I'm not trying to discredit Betsy Blair at all, because I feel that she was out there. A lot of people were out there ambiguously. They had no reason to make up a story or lie, and I feel like Betsy Blair was out there walking, and we cannot disregard the state's theory. The state's theory is the groundwork for this case. So if you take the state's theory that Betsy Blair saw a guy on the first platform of the bridge, it was at 1:53 p.m.
Right.
They based that off of her Fitbit data and her loops that she was doing around the trails. And then she testified that when she turned around and she was walking back towards Mears, she passed two female girls that she believed to be the victims after the girls had like they had been abducted and then were found killed. She claimed that she passed these two girls heading towards the Monon High Bridge. So these two girls heading toward the Monon High Bridge would have encountered who?
Well, yeah.
If you believe the state's theory, I mean, we can get into all of the different facets of the Fitbit, the Apple Health data, and the things that don't really line up. But if we're to take the state, because that's what matters here, the state's version of events is what's convicted a man for 130 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing I wanted to, Jamie asked, she said Sarah Carball sounded more legit? Question mark. No, not at
What?
all. I don't think she sound. I think she sounded less legit. You'll understand. You'll understand as what is the more likely scenario about what happened the first 2 years, and she wasn't part of it either. You'll hear something that Tobe tells a reporter that will leave no doubt who law enforcement's witnesses were those first 2 years. And it wasn't Betsy Blair, nor was it Sarah Carball.
No, and
That's what the the PCA is not a truthful document. Any
mm-mm.
Not the two primary witnesses for the first 2 years. It's that simple. They weren't. And you're going to hear somebody with a very reputable person tell you what Tobe told them about who the two witnesses were as late as March or as late as February of 2019. And this person has no reason. This person thinks Richard Allen's guilty. This person has no reason to lie. They're going to tell you that Daniel Pearson and Riley Voorhees were the two witnesses as of February 2019, 2 months before the sketch change. It was not Sarah Carball and Betsy Blair. That is part of the fitted story that law enforcement / the prosecution has come up with to try to narrow the focus of the investigation down so much that these two witnesses, these two witnesses were the only two witnesses. Okay. There was only one guy that could have been out there at that time. I mean, I suppose you could say that McClellan did a really good job in terms of narrowing it down so much that it left nothing but Richard Allen out there with Libby and Abby, and it couldn't be anybody else. The fact of the matter is that's not the way the first 2 years of the investigation went. Not even close. That's just what they
No,
want you to believe.
it's not. It doesn't fit into the amount of people that we have literally. Because I'm not going to I don't want to say entertain, but I if it's a he said she said thing, I can't add it to the timeline. I just can't. I
Right.
need some sort. I need factual proof, whether it be, and it sucks that we are now down to factual proof being a screenshot. But if you have an individual who is claiming to be out there, a conversation takes place online and it's screenshotted, whether you can prove it from there or not, it is something that's presentable to question the person who made the statement. So there's about 12 people, if not more. I really think it's, well, it is more. I'm gonna say closer to 20 people factually reported out there on the trails between 1 o'clock and 4 p.m. And none of them, except for the first girl group, which was Wilbur, Rayleigh Voorhees, the two little sisters. Other than them, no one reports a Richard Allen. And you can think that's mysterious, or you can think it's not, but let's talk about the people. For example, Betsy Blair, who's walking the trails. She did 3 loops that she walks all the time, that is accounted for on her Fitbit. And she didn't see the 4 girls, nor did she see the man that Bree Wilbur and Rayleigh Voorhees claimed that they saw. But she did see the young bridge guy on the
Right.
first platform.
Right. Well, one of the things too that again, the misinformation, disinformation, whatever you want to call it, has been so prevalent that um, one of the things people told me, DP, it's just simple. DP saw McCain, and that's the way it was. The one question they never could answer, though, when I asked about that was when did he come to the realization that he saw McCain? When did he decide? And is that something law enforcement believed as well? That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted me to believe. That's what they wanted everybody to believe. Again, I've got straight from DP's mouth. He wasn't even aware of McCain. Didn't know who McCain was, and had never seen a photo of him or anything as late as March of 2020. That
So
doesn't.
can
That, I
you
mean, they wanted to believe this was some kind of uh, that the McCain thing. Oh, DP saw McCain. It happened pretty quickly. No, it didn't. Again, that's part of the misinformation, disinformation. There, it's straight from DP's mouth. He was showing a picture of McCain. Didn't know who he was. And was very, very clear about it. It's like, whoever this guy is you're showing me might have been the guy I saw today. There's nothing clear cut. All he would have had to say was, "Hey, yeah, that's the guy I saw. That's McCain. That's who me and law enforcement decided I must have seen." That didn't happen.
so
Did not happen.
so can you will you go into the details about the sketch artist going back and forth between Rayleigh Voorhees and Daniel Pearson?
Yeah, that's something Julie Melvin could probably talk about better than I can. But when they were brought in, several people actually mentioned that the sketch artist for the old bridge guy, when DP went in, which I don't know that. I know he went in the day after the 14th. I don't know that he was did the sketch. I think he probably that was part of it, maybe a couple of days later. But Riley was there at the same time, and supposedly the sketch artist was going back and forth, trying to get a uh, they're trying to get. I guess they were trying to come to an agreement. Hey, is this you saw? Is this the right scarf? Is this the right hat? Is this the right? Was the scarf up, down, whatever? What color was the hair? All that kind of stuff. And so that that actually makes sense. I know. A lot of people, had said there were multiple people that contributed to the old bridge guy sketch. It's just kind of confusion about who they were. But this goes in, and again, part of that is, the sketch didn't get released for 5 months, which was strange, obviously. But um, originally, this sketch artist was going back and forth, room to room, seeing if they matched the same, if their sighting was the same person. And I think, and then they may have used the video as part of putting the face together as well. But I would have thought that would somehow be coercion of a witness, but uh, I guess they
Well,
were they were just trying to get a picture of somebody out there, uh, and again, that would have been part of setting the timeline. If
yeah, I
Riley
mean,
if
it
Riley saw him come in, or Riley was part of the 4 girls that saw him come in, DP was
And
parked,
my
saw him leave, that would have set the entry and the exit times, and that would have given them a timeline to go with.
and so I did not upload a full presentation. Oh my gosh, I can still hear myself echoing. I don't know why. I'm gonna cry. Crazy. So you don't hear that, Skip?
No, I don't hear it at all.
Oh my gosh.
I heard it. From my side one time when I could hear the feedback. I can hear myself talking, but I don't hear that anymore either.
So as far as the witnesses and the timeline,
Mhm.
here's my issue. And I figured that this would be the good thing about tonight, that we could like debate, go back and forth. Um, if the sketch artist was sharing information and you've got a witness in the police department describing somebody with a mask or a baklava type head covering, and then you have someone like Daniel Pearson, who, I'm not accusing him, but you could say, okay, there's a whole bunch of lies going on for no significant reason. And I'm going to pull up, give me a second.
I'm going to mute. Somebody suggested that I mute while you're speaking. I'll do that. See if that helps.
That should, oh my God, I should not, that, that's annoying. Oh, woman doing false
I do hear
memory.
something rattling. Is that, I don't know if it's a fan or what, but
No, I have no fan on. But I just feel like Daniel Pearson is either, I'll just come out and say it. Daniel Pearson is either involved in a very nefarious way, or he is somebody who wants to insert themselves to make himself feel important. Because I think that he was confident enough that, look at this guy. This guy, the bridge guy they have a photo of, looks nothing like me. So I'm going to agree with that. But we know now, based on the supplementary report that I have, which came in on February 14th, that he contacted law enforcement, never said anything about a man wearing a mask. He talked about a man with a camera, a disposable camera, and claimed that this man took photos of him and his girlfriend, Shelby Hicks, without their permission. Well, Shelby Hicks never testifies to any such thing. And I'm confused on how Daniel Pearson can be so tech savvy that while in high school, he's building the Carroll County City website, but he doesn't know the difference between a digital camera and a disposable camera. That's concerning. And then once he realizes that they're going to flip sketches to a young bridge guy sketch, then he wants to go off the radar. That is questionable enough. But at the end of the day, we cannot disregard the fact that Daniel Pearson's timeline with Shelby Hicks's grandfather, which I can pull that up if you want me to, Skip. He's claiming that Daniel was out there at 1:30. There are messages from Daniel's friend who were saying, wait, what? Daniel wasn't there at 3. He was there at 1:30. If Daniel got there at 1:30, the question is why? What was he doing out there at 1:30? Then you have Shelby Hicks, who takes the stand and literally fabricates the whole entire arrival time through to Daniel dropped me off at my car. It's right there. We don't need a FOIA request. We don't need anything but her testimony. She said we, all the way up to her dropping her car off, which was a brand new car that was never explained on the stand what she had to get fixed on the car. She picks her car up and then she decides it's a great day. So we're going to go out to the trails. They go to the trails. They walk halfway to Freedom Bridge. Then they walk back to Mona High Bridge. She claims they see no one. Then they leave and they go to Amish country. Then they drive through Camden. And then he brings her back and drops her off at her car.
Yeah, I mean, her testimony obviously didn't match anything. I don't. I'm still trying to find what I think is true in her testimony at trial. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Even from her beginning, of she was with her boyfriend. I mean, he had a fiance at the time. I doubt. I mean, that was not her boyfriend. Um, and that she took her car in at 12:40. She knew she got there at 2:30 because she took her car in at 12:40. Um, what she didn't explain was more important. What she left out was more important than what she said. She said what she left out was she never said, "Hey," she like you said she talked about we, but she never said that she picked up DP at any point from taking her car in at 12:40 to the 2:30 time that she apparently says she got there uh, at the trail, which was vague anyway. I know Andy Baldwin, when he was questioner, said, "What time did you get there?" Said 2:30, and said, "Could it have been earlier?" Yeah, it could have been earlier. Could have been later. Yeah, it could have been later. Well, you know, it's kind of the same thing with DP in these texts that we have, where he's saying, "Yeah, I don't really remember what time I got there. I just know it was 3 o'clock." Well, I mean, you don't know what time you got there, but you know it's 3 o'clock because you're trying to explain another occurrence. Yeah, because I got this text sitting on the bridge at 3:19 or whatever. Um, the whole thing is like that. It's just everything's conflicting. Um, but she never explains that. She never explains, you know, how they got together, how he got in the car with her, if he ever was. Um, and because his story was always that he got there at 3 o'clock, he parked at the Mears lot, walked slowly, like I said, walked slowly to the bridge. The girl, this mysterious girl he was with, turns out to be Shelby. He saw the guy leaving, going back toward the Freedom Bridge, and she saw nothing. You know, don't speak with
Mm-hmm.
her. Don't waste your time. Don't talk to her at all because she didn't see anything. That's where the arguing couple came from. I don't believe there was an arguing couple. I think that was a reason to explain why she supposedly didn't see anything. As it turns out, in her testimony, she obviously did see things. She saw an older gentleman with a camera, two kids, and two of her friends from Monticello who who got there just not long after they did. So
Mm-hmm.
again, it's just all of it's conflicting. And but when you go back and look at what, like I said, there's four pieces of information that said they got there at 1:30. There's zero information other than what they say as far as what time they got there. Neither one was seen prior to about 3 o'clock. So, you mentioned that why did DP come forward? If he had been seen and he knew he had been seen, and he was unaccounted for. He didn't have anybody out there to say, "Hey, I was out there at 150 or 130." That would be reason enough to come forward. You know, he
Hmm.
may not the killer, may not, but he certainly would have wanted everything pointed away from him. You know, and as we get into it, and you talk about what Hannah Shakespeare said about what Tobe told her in February of 2019, it's very clear what she says. She says Tobe told me that DP has it on record. DP was the primary witness and saw Bridge Guy going back toward the Freedom Bridge, right? So
Hmm.
she mentions Riley Voorhees was the one who saw him coming in, and the three other girls that were with her, and DP was the one saw him going out. That's what the facts show happened the first 2 years. What you've been told. I saw something All Eyes put out that said something the other day about how you have to forget everything or unlearn everything you thought you knew. That's exactly what you have to do, because the misinformation campaign that's been out there has been has has worked, because they have people believing things that aren't even close to the truth. When you look at the evidence, you realize that the facts show something totally different happened.
Hmm.
And so now, how does that hurt the prosecution going forward? Well, because if DP was there at 1:30 and he could possibly be the guy standing on the bridge that Betsy Blair saw,
There's no doubt.
and
There is no
if
doubt.
she
There's no
described him
doubt in my
exactly,
mind.
only guy
There,
in his 20s, only guy there that day in his 20s, right? And
yeah,
he
there's
was
no
there,
doubt in
not
my
a short,
mind.
tall
That's who
guy.
Betsy Blair saw.
Okay, well, if that's the case, the prosecution couldn't allow that. That kills their timeline of Richard Allen being there past 1:30 and going down the hill with the girls.
Mm. Hmm.
So again, I believe that the story it's been a retrofitted story about the investigate tale fable about the investigation that McClellan basically narrowed it down to where, hey, you know, get rid of any keep all the stuff that supports it, get rid of anything that's how you lose 70 days worth of interviews, or a week of the first week or first 2 weeks or whatever, tape over or whatever, you know. That,
So,
we've allowed a lot of this behavior and ineptitude by law enforcement. We normalize it
Hmm.
because it's been so prevalent. There's been so much of it. It's like, well, yeah, that, they did lose all that, but that doesn't tell the tale. Well, yeah, maybe it does. As a matter of
So,
fact,
so,
it's very likely it does.
so, Skip, I'm going to introduce you to Michael Osbrook. Michael Osbrook has joined us. Are you familiar
thanks,
with who
Jeff.
Michael Osbrook is?
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Oh, we know each other. I'm waiting for a
Okay.
piece of information from Jeff.
You didn't check your text.
I didn't see anything in the text.
It was a couple of weeks ago. It was just after we had talked the one time, and I said that we needed to. You'll see something about a phone call, and anyway,
Okay. Anyway,
I was just waiting on you. I know you're busy. I know you're busy.
so tell me this, Jeff.
Yeah,
So Lesenby tells Hannah Shakespeare that DP saw Bridge Guy walking back towards Freedom Bridge,
correct,
and theoretically there would be a report about that.
correct.
And I just wonder if I just find it hard to imagine that the defense would not, with that report, I find it hard to imagine that, Pearson wouldn't have been called, or Lesenby, as sort of course of investigation, although that's not really a thing.
Well, let
Um,
me yeah let me just say, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I made Andy Baldwin aware of this. I forget the date. The next day, or on a Friday, on the Monday, he filed a motion to subpoena Tobe. This was going to be discussed. Okay, he was going to depose. It was subpoena to depose Tobe. At the hearing, the one that that Gull kicked everybody out. I've got the article from the Journal Courier, whatever. McClellan, of course, went crazy, called it harassment and this and that. Of course, nobody was in the court to hear it except for the newspaper. But she denied it. I don't know how deposing the top law enforcement officer of the agency of record is harassment, but somehow
Harassment of Ives?
Harassment of Tobe.
Oh, they wanted to post Tobe. They wanted to post Tobe, and she wouldn't let them.
She wanted he introduced or submitted a motion to subpoena Tobe to depose him. He was going to ask him about this thing. Why would you tell Hannah Shakespeare that Daniel Pearson was the primary witness in February of 2019? She denied it.
Well, they needed then to go in and make the record on his trial. They needed to cross-examine him about that.
Yeah, let me let me look at the date of it, so I'll just be sure that.
I can't believe that I can't believe a subpoena for a deposition of Lesenby would be quashed. That's terrible.
Yeah, he called. Let's see. He called it. Let's see here. It was in the Journal. I think it's called. Is it called the Journal and Courier?
Yeah. I think the Courier. Isn't the Courier? Yeah, that could be the Lafayette paper.
Yeah. So let's see here. Yeah. Anyway, I made him aware of it. He was obviously really interested in it. And he. I mean, literally the next day or the next working day or whatever. And it was the day. I just remember when I read the newspaper article. It was the day that she kicked everybody out. I don't know if it had anything to do with that in particular. It was the time that she kicked everybody out and had the closed hearing. And later on, she denied the deposition.
Oh, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. His words were there was so much hyperbole involved in his word. I know that's part of arguing and all that kind of stuff, but it's like harassment and I can't remember I'll send it to you, but he used another word that I was like, I just don't understand how that could be.
Oppressive. It was oppressive.
Oppressive. That's what it was. Oppressive. That's exactly what it was. That's right. There you go. You're aware of it.
I know the legal lingo a little bit.
Harassment and oppressive that they were trying
Well,
to.
but the thing is that Lesenby was just the person that Pearson told that to. I mean, they can go to Pearson himself and depose him. We don't know whether they did or not.
Yeah, his statements fall right in the timeline of Lost.
They do what?
His statement, his time frame of when he went to law enforcement are in the Lost. The witness testimony that was Lost.
The reports might be, but I mean, they can still get the person. Daniel's a person.
Oh, you're talking about the defense?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then they ask him, and then they go to look. There are a lot of ways to do it. And I'm not here to criticize the defense. I'm just saying that there are other ways. There are other ways at this. And I mean, another way at this is Pearson willing now. I mean, I put in chat earlier, and I've got some he said, she said stuff coming, but the he said, she said stuff is all very interesting. and it's more interesting, obviously, he said is the guy actually running the investigation.
Yeah, I think.
Um,
Yeah,
but what we really need is people who are willing to sign affidavits and in the end willing to testify.
right. Yeah, exact circumstances when Andy, in his opening statement, said Daniel Pearson was going to be somebody they were going to talk to on the stand, bring on the stand. He mentioned four people. Three of them, the three others, testified. DP didn't for whatever reason. I don't know the circumstance of why he didn't. I don't know
Yeah.
how enforceable that is, and who would be the person that has to enforce it. Is that part of the prosecutor's job? I mean, he's the prosecutor of the county. I would imagine he's the one who has to prosecute someone who doesn't show up or is inexcused.
No, 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 no. It's the court. You issue a subpoena, and then when the person doesn't show up, the judge issues a bench warrant.
Oh, I think probably finding out the circumstances of why he didn't testify would be
Well, that's for post conviction, so that's another matter.
right.
So what were you all saying about what do we know about masks?
It's mostly inconsistent. You know about in what Tobe told Hannah. She says that talks about DP being the uh, exit witness and saw him with a scarf, baklava, whatever. Didn't say if it was covering his face.
Baklava,
Yeah, didn't say if it was
Yeah, it's a
covering his face, but
baklava.
had one.
Hey,
Had
Skip.
one.
baklava covers my face.
Hey, Skip.
Yeah.
Skip.
Yes.
Do me a favor.
Hmm.
Of course, we're having a lot of audio issues. Can you exit out and then come back in,
Yeah.
please?
Well, I'll wait for him, and I've got a he said she said story that I've been working on since December. Or trying to get other people. Nobody else has been willing to do it, so I'm going public with it.
With what?
The he said she said story that needs to be looked into super fast.
Which one? There's 1,000 in this case. Which one are you talking about?
The one involving a mask
Mm,
and a photograph.
okay. Yeah. Brienne says, spill the tea. Let's go.
It may be no tea, but it's so important that right. The thing about investigation is there are dry wells. There are rabbit holes that have no rabbit. Um, but you also have to make a judgment about what well you're going to drill. You're going to go down based on what you're likely to find if it's not dry or empty. And this, uh, my back.
On with this StreamYard.
Okay. So,
Hold on a second. Hold on.
skip back.
Okay, well, we're here, but it's not letting me add you or Skip to the screen. I don't know what's going on.
Well, as long as I'm there, if I'm not on the screen, I don't.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
We can
I
hear
don't
you,
need to be
Skip.
on the screen. Okay, so
People would probably rather me not be on the screen anyway.
so people, so among the people who have really never said a word, is Kay Weber,
Right.
and she has always been scared to death that if she said anything, she would in some way implicate Brad.
Right.
Her only surviving child, entirely understandable. At the same time, having seen Brad Weber's phone dump and knowing a few other things, I think it's absolutely provable that Brad Weber had nothing to do with any of this. And I, I mean, if he were ever accused, it would be very easy to defend. Very easy. I mean, there was a girlfriend there that night. He was at work. We've got him. We've got him on video coming home too late. I mean, he just wasn't involved. So the story goes from Kay Weber, and it's been consistent over the years. Skip certainly knows the source, but I'm not saying who the source is. It's an incredibly reliable source. So this is again, he said, she said stuff, right? But I have been on the lawyers and everybody else to try and get to Kay Weber. She won't speak to me. So two FBI agents were down in Arizona to talk to Kay Weber and her husband in a trice after the murders. I don't know whether it was Friday. I mean, they're like, I've heard tell there are hotel bills out there somewhere. And Kay Weber has sworn repeatedly over the years that one of the agents, a woman, so I think she and her husband were interviewed separately, but she has insisted that she was shown a photograph of a man on the bridge with a mask on. A photograph, not a drawing, a photograph.
And that's not a far off stretch from the social media post that I have of a girl who claims that she saw a photo that was posted online on Facebook with two men behind Abby. And then I think it was a day later she claimed it disappeared. It's in
Well,
the video
I mean, when would the picture of two men behind Abby have been taken?
on the 13th.
I mean, that sounds.
She claimed
I
that there
mean,
was
if
she claimed there was a picture posted. Thank you. She claimed there was a picture posted and it had two guys dressed in black behind Abby. And then a couple of days after the bodies were found, she could no longer find the photo. I have the screenshot of it for what it's worth, but where we're at right now, almost 8.5 years later, is
well, you'd have to go to the
we are
person.
living on
I mean,
rumors.
you'd have
We
to
are
go to
living on
you'd have to
rumors.
go to the person. You'd have to go to the person who produced the thing, who found it and then lost it. If that person knows who put it up, then you have to go to that person. And
Well,
and I
yeah,
gotta say,
I get that, but what I'm saying is that this late in the game, 8.5 years later, we're living on rumors. If you go back to the beginning and you go back to all of the social media posts that were being posted back then, you're going to get a much better clarification of what was going on versus what people thought were going on now. And you can include me in that at the same time because I watched all this stuff go on, but I didn't capture it back then. But there is way more exculpatory evidence for Rick Allen than there is anything else.
Yeah, the thing you have, one thing you have to understand too is it's hard to imagine is the amount of misinformation that has been disseminated is absolutely incredible. And it's been done to mislead, misdirect, um, and why? I know everybody has different MOs and motives, but that there's not even, I mean, unless you've been involved in it and seen it. There was one particular group that, a Facebook group that went out of their way to try to make me, everyone else, believe that Shelby Hicks was with someone else that day. They even created a name, a guy named John Shields. Oh no, she was with John Shields that day. I was like, no, she wasn't. She was with Daniel Pearson. No, 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 no. You got it all wrong, Skip. It was, you see, I know both of them. She was with them, and I'm like, just that's a typical example of people. They knew the truth. They knew what they were telling me wasn't the truth. They were just trying to mislead. And
Well,
But there's
well, Kay Weber's not trying to mislead. I
no,
mean,
I
and,
know.
and this
no, but I
story,
think
and this, hang on, and this story was told actually as it was told to me, as it was told to the person who told me, was that it was actually sort of done to make it highly credible to me. People can blow
Yeah,
it off if they want.
no, I
It
know
was
who you're
done.
talking
It was
about.
done. It was done as if it was in Kay Weber's voice. And this person said to me, they asked me. They asked me if I recognized the guy, and I said, "Well, of course I can't. His face is covered."
Yeah,
And it just
I know who
seems
you're
to,
talking about. Yeah, it is. It's a really credible part. Yeah, it's a really credible source. I totally agree.
and well, but it's a real. If there is a photograph of somebody in a mask on the bridge, I mean, how important is that?
Very, very, because there has been there's been talk and conjecture about the scarfs and all that from the beginning. I mean, that's been talked about. You know that the guy seen coming and going had wearing a scarf to cover up his identity or whatever, which
well,
that makes sense.
okay, so
Well, I've been on the. I mean, I don't know whether you go to Kay, you do a TUI request. The FBI. I've been on the lawyers about this since last summer.
But
Yeah.
yeah, how do you? I mean, when you try to juxtapose the witness sightings, if you look at Riley, first of all, the four girls that saw the guy come in and enter the trails don't agree on even what they saw, but none of their sightings matches what Betsy Blair. That was one of the things I never understood is why do you almost have conflicting information, just like you have conflicting sketches about these. One's describing a tall, clean shaven, somebody else is describing a shorter with a scarf over his face. I mean, obviously you wouldn't describe someone as clean shaven if they had a scarf over their face. So whoever that was on the bridge it seems likely not to be the same guy that the girls saw coming in. But
okay,
yet
so
they
hold
convinced the
on,
jury that.
hold on. Um,
Well,
Miss,
and again, it just comes
I,
down
Michael,
who's willing.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna interject because I don't want to say I disagree with both of you, but I am tired of pussyfooting around the real issues here in this case. And that is, we do not, after a trial that lasted 4 months, we do not have answers about Snapchat photos, timestamps, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have real information or data on a Fitbit that Betsy Blair was wearing. We do not have from the defense witnesses, Cheyenne, Shelby Hicks, David McCain. We do not have definitive pin down answers of what time they got there, what cars were there, when they left, who they saw. It was all a passive questioning situation where we are still left with what at the end of the day that we know based on GPS data, two girls were dropped off. I can tell you now, after 6 months, I started this Delphi Vault series from the very beginning of this case, thinking I was just going to willow my way through. I got to February 13th and I can't get past it. Why? Because I have no real factual information. We can argue until the cows come home what so and so said, what so and so did, what the state claimed. I don't give a shit about what the state claimed. What I care about is factual, definitive information. We've got Daniel Pearson, who never took the stand. We have Cheyenne, who did take the stand, and she claimed she got a robocall at 2:12. Yet that timestamp, that phone call was not presented at trial. You've got Shelby Hicks, who claims she arrived with a we got there, got out of our car, walked up to the trail, we went right towards Freedom Bridge. Then we didn't go all the way. We turned around halfway and came back. Then we left. But what she accidentally said in her testimony was they went to the Amish country, then they went to Camden, and then he dropped me off at my car. Well,
Yeah. After
he
she
didn't
said they
drop
had
you
arrived at
off
her
at your
car.
car if he didn't have his own car. So now we know that Daniel Pearson did not drive his own car to the trails. I've got over 12 people that I can emphatically prove based on the state, the defense, and individual testimony on social media or at trial that were there on the trails. Richard Allen would have had to have been able to go into invisible mode to pass all these people to go out there on the bridge, coerce two little girls off the south end down a hill. And now, according to murder sheets, he stood over there and what? Smoked fucking cigarettes after killing the girls? According to murder sheets, Richard Allen told his family, oh, well, I dropped cigarette butts and they're going to get my DNA and they're going to prove that I was there. This case is beyond ridiculous with the misinformation, and I blame the state and the judge for the lack of transparency, and they can get mad at us all that they want, but they have left us no choice but to speculate. Period. But there are still two little girls out there at that coordinates on the other side of the creek who were found dead. And 8.5 years later, going on 9, after a 4 week trial, we have no answers to any of these questions. None. And I'm pissed. I'm tired of feeling like I'm doing something wrong for searching for the truth. I'm tired of every time I bring somebody on my channel to talk about this case, they're attacked, or after the fact, I get nasty messages like I'm making shit up. I'm sorry. I'm aggravated about the whole scenario. And Skip, you have been a
Well,
strong voice. Michael, you have been a strong voice, but it is time for both of you, me, and everybody else in this community to stop acting like We have to play by the rules or our voices won't count.
It's not a question about voices not counting for me. It's about evidence counting. I mean, the question is getting Rick out, and without admissible evidence, you're not going to do it. So my focus is entirely on developing admissible evidence. End of story.
Yeah, if it was me, I mean, obviously I'm not an attorney. I'll defer to Michael on anything, any legalese or any legal issues. But if you want the truth, in my opinion, you can ask Tobe. I don't think Tobe is going to would lie to. I think he's retired and he's not going to lie for these guys. And I think if you can get Daniel Pearson to tell the truth about what happened. Obviously, Shelby wouldn't do it at trial, so what are the odds of that happening? But that's the key, because I think it boils. It's
Well, but you
basically
have to
this in
get
a nutshell.
so you have to get a couple. I mean, to do this timeline stuff, you need a couple or three people. And I don't understand the timeline stuff well enough to know which two or three people, but you need two or three people, willing to sign affidavits, willing to testify in the end about this, and this, that then blows up the state's timeline.
Right. And yeah, and the best way I'm assuming the best way to blow up the state's timeline is obviously Betsy Blair, who she saw is a perfect example. If you put that into question, that certainly if you make it just as likely or more likely that she saw someone else, someone that fits the description she gave exactly, and someone who looks like the sketch that she gave, at that point it's kind of hard for her to say, well, yeah, it wasn't exactly what I was, this 10 out of 10 tall poofy hair 20 guy in his 20s. It was I really was mistaken and saw a guy in his 40s that was short and bald, and could have possibly been wearing a knit hat or something. I mean, that's now you've got her in a situation where
Well, I think there are better ways to blow up the state's timeline. I'm not saying that wouldn't be a good way, but the better way would be, I mean, we've already done, I mean, Yellow Jackets already blown up the idea that was Rick Allen's car.
Right.
On the HHS video. I mean, that's just not a question anymore. So he's not on the timeline there. My understanding is that there is a ton of video from businesses all over town, and that needs to be looked at.
Yeah, agree. Tell the complete story about the comings and goings. I agree with that. I agree.
Well, and by the way, it might show I mean, times aside, it might show a Ford 500 and not. It might show Rick Ford, gray Ford 500.
Well, I go back to that disregarding a bet. Again, the first 2 years of the investigation was so bad. It's no wonder they lost lost most of it, because they didn't even ask. They didn't ask, nor did Betsy Blair volunteer any information about a vehicle until March of 2019. Right now, that's just further proof they disregarded her. Right. They didn't have. Carter said at the 1 year anniversary of the murders, he said somebody asked about how the guy left. He said, well, walked a certain distance, so we don't have any information about a vehicle. So that tells you right.
Well,
that tells you right there that a year after the murders, they had no information about the vehicle, because this witness who had seen the girl, only one that saw the girls and saw a guy in their path, was disregarded. Why was she? If you can answer the question why she was disregarded, you'll understand what happened the first 2 years of the investigation.
Well, my understanding is, and you may know better than I, but my understanding is that when the old bridge guy picture came out, Betsy Blair was pretty angry.
Well, I think that's been that was a narrative I think that was pushed. Holman said that they were both reluctant witnesses. That well, if she was pretty angry, then for 2 years she didn't come forward with any information about a vehicle because they didn't bring her back in until March 7th or March 9th, and she drew a picture of some kind of little compact car, or whatever. But they didn't ask her about that. They weren't interested in her sketch originally. That tells and there's no way you can convince me that a guy that's there at 2 o'clock standing on the bridge is not a person of interest. You're telling me they didn't try to identify that guy? They didn't try. They didn't try. They didn't put that sketch out as well as someone they'd like to speak with or whatever, however they wanted to describe it. But they didn't do anything. They didn't put out what she saw, and that tells me they either thought they knew who she saw. Well, that's probably the likely thing. They probably thought, hey, well, they were putting these things together. Oh, well, he saw this and they saw that. Well, she must have seen Daniel Pearson because we know he was there at that time.
That her report is not the only report that was disregarded.
No, I know, I realize that.
We have
Well,
got the
do we
leader.
know if she was ever shown a picture of Daniel Pearson?
No,
I don't know that I don't know. I don't know that we know that at all.
Well, I mean, that's something else that could be done. Somebody could show Betsy Blair a picture of Daniel Pearson and say, is this the person you saw?
Well, we've got the report of the Lieberts, both Lieberts, husband and wife, independently saying the guy they saw on their private drive had a face mask. Then there's all these other reports throughout the years that he looked, he was dark skinned or he had caps on his teeth, yada, yada, yada. And then Teresa Liebert gets on the stand and claims, I never saw his face. And the defense didn't even pounce on that opportunity. But if we have somebody on the private drive lurking around between 8 and 9 in the morning, and then you've got Rayleigh Voorhees exiting the trails toward Freedom Bridge and sees a guy with a face mask. Number one, how do we end up with a sketch, an old bridge guy sketch who no one saw his face? And then we've got 2 years later this young bridge guy sketch, and the prosecutors put her on the stand and limit her questioning as to he saw a guy, not the description of the guy, but she saw a guy on the first platform of the bridge. It took the defense calling her back to elicit that information. Like, I don't believe.
Look, we can go over the trial stuff till the cows come home.
But the trial stuff is what's going to matter. The trial stuff is
No, it's stuff that defeats the trial stuff that matters, and it has to be admissible evidence to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
post conviction.
Yeah, one question that.
No, I mean, post conviction. Yeah, I mean, once the briefs start getting filed, I don't think there's any chance of short circuiting the appeal.
Say that again.
I said once the briefs start getting filed, I don't think there's any chance of short circuiting the appeal, go straight to post conviction. And that's why it's important to develop the stuff that is most destructive to the state's case. What Yellow Jacket did, I really think what Yellow Jacket did with that car and just the trial exhibits was fantastic. That destroys one leg, not Rick's car.
But
waiting for
is that going to be utilized in the direct appeal?
No.
Right. It's going to be, it would be viable in post conviction.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe part of ineffective assistance. I don't know. I mean, it's, it's very hard to say what, I don't know what the lawyers are going to do. I mean, look, it can be used. It can be used in the fact in the appeal, not as a legal issue, but look, in all these in appeals and habeas cases, you got to do two things. You got to give the court a way to grant relief, and by that I mean you got to get past some way that they can get past the various standards of review, whatever. But then you also have to make them want to grant relief, because I can guarantee you now the federal courts are better than the state courts at it, but the state courts can just bury even a meritorious claim, make it look like it's worth nothing. And the thing, one thing I'm kind of afraid of in this case is that the Court of Appeals is going to look at this and say, and the Supreme Court, whoever loses, Kara's pointed out, whoever loses is going to the Supreme Court. And, my worry is that, people are going to say, yeah, bad stuff happened here, but it'll all be sorted out in the post-conviction case, affirmed, see you later.
Oh, yeah. And to the person who's incarcerated, that's a lifetime.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm trying not, like if, if you can develop admissible evidence to get, move the thing forward now, and, you'd have to have, I mean, I certainly know that Stacey and Mark, I mean, I actually know they're aware of the Davis petition possibility, and if the evidence, if sufficient, really sort of stunning evidence is developed, they might do the Davis petition thing, or try to. I mean, in the end, it's up to the Court of Appeals. Yeah, look, I'm not saying it's likely, but we're waiting on at least a preliminary photogrammetry report. If we get if we can get the official thing.
How far are you away? There's people in the chat asking, how far are you away from that?
I don't know. We've been waiting for a while. I sent some more information along with the guy wanted.
What are the legalities about speaking with the jurors in the original trial about what they thought the most powerful evidence was, or what was the evidence that tilted the scale?
Well, if you can find them, if you can find them, you're certainly allowed to talk to them. It's the first anonymous jury I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, just another strange.
We've only really had one come forward.
There was no objection to it. I mean, how can you vet the jurors if they're anonymous? I mean, now I know that I know that a number of them have been identified.
Yeah.
Whether anybody's tried to talk to them or not, I don't know.
I mean, is that something that you would want? I mean, you want to know? I mean, what was the evidence that you thought was made you? Was there anything that made you believe that Richard Allen? I mean, I know.
And Karen Reed, they talked to the jurors after the first hung jury, and yeah, I mean, for a retrial, yeah, that information could be useful. Okay. What the jurors thought is not going to help you get the new trial.
Okay, so that wouldn't help you in terms of what you wanted to focus on in trying to get a new trial or whatever happened in the appeal or whatever.
Well, look, I'm a little, so we don't have the record for it, but I'm a little concerned about all the palling around with the bailiffs and
yeah,
somebody put up a Facebook post that and again, it could be completely fake, just completely fake, and there's been no follow up on it. But there was briefly this just about a juror who'd come forward to say that Holman and Gull came into the room during deliberations, and the entire mood changed. I
All
don't
right,
believe that happened.
hold on. The year of the cat made a perfect statement in chat, and she's describing what the one juror stated who came forward, and that was the one juror who spoke said it was because Rick was the only one out here who could have done it. Nobody, including
she also said the van was important.
nobody,
And
including the defense team, put forth any type of trail goers for that day.
I'm imposing a fine system for complaining about what the trial lawyers didn't do because it's too easy.
Okay.
It's what we can do now that matters. And yes, what they didn't do, if it can be done now with devastating effect to the state's case, I'm all for it.
But here's my question, Michael. Did the defense team not do it because they were too busy doing other things? Or were they
I have no
just
idea.
not aware?
I
Or
was
were they
not in the
just
room.
not aware?
Look, I don't know what they paid attention to. I don't know what they didn't pay attention to. I know that when things came to my attention that I thought were important enough, that I sent emails off, and sometimes I'd get a thanks and sometimes I'd get nothing. And I think the stuff I sent in was appreciated, but what they did with it was entirely up to them. I was not part of the team. I was just another Joe out here with you all.
Well,
yeah,
and that's why all of these topics of discussion are important, because there's no guarantee that Andy and Brad are going to be future counsel for Rick if he loses, or let's say I'm not that he loses, I'm saying if he's granted a new trial. There's no guarantee that Andy and Brad are going to be his new counsel. But all of these things are worth discussing because it falls into the category of people understanding why, when someone says, oh, well, the jury thought he was the only one out there. And then I can hand them a list of 12 to 16 people that we never heard about in trial. That makes a difference.
Well, I mean, yeah, but somebody's got to go talk to those 12 or 16 people. I mean, Kay Weber's one of the, actually, she was talked to, but she was talked to before this mask thing came up. And I don't think she said much when she was talked to. Yeah, I mean, somebody can go out and talk to them. I mean, there was a witness for about a week until I looked at the documents more carefully. I thought there was a phone witness that could have been sort of crucially important.
Well, how strict are the rules of discovery in terms of? I mean, one of the reasons I don't dog the defense much is because a lot of what they had access to was just the discovery. They were at the mercy of what they were being told by the prosecution, and whether that was stuff that was left out, whether it was stuff that was misleading, whether it was stuff that they lied about, whatever it was. How strict are we? I mean, when it comes to an appeal, how do they look at discovery?
the appeal won't have really much to do with discovery, I don't think.
Right.
I don't know whether, I mean, what issues Stacey and Mark bring up. Look, I don't know whether they're going to bring up the Brady stuff with Reese Davis and the letters. My
Right.
guess is, even if they bring it up, the Court of Appeals will say something like, "Yeah, there's more to this. The record isn't the record. You know, we don't really have the record to decide this at the moment. You know, take it up in post conviction."
I mean, I guess you know, it's one way to side skirt that is just claim you lost 70 days of stuff. You know, but
Look,
Yeah.
I
you know,
guess
the
that's
most
neither here nor
experienced
there.
look, look, the most experienced post conviction lawyer in the state is a friend of mine. We've had a joke for 20 years that you can nail down 20 things that you have to nail down in a post conviction appeal. So this is a direct appeal. It's not a post conviction appeal, but it applies the same. And the Indiana appellate courts will invent the 21st thing,
Yeah.
or they will simply leave it out.
Does that kind of thing say that's say you're familiar with a case where that's happened before, where you know information was lost or pertinent information that was had to do with witnesses and witness testimony and things like that? Doesn't that get a little more harsh? Doesn't the judge act a little more harsh generally to that, something like that, as opposed to, oh well, things like that I guess just happen, we'll move on. I mean,
Well, there's Arizona v. Youngblood, and that's what, you know, Gall found that the destruction of those tapes was not intentional. And that's a finding of fact. And unless you can, like, really prove, you know, that's basically, unless you can prove she's really, really, really wrong, uh, you know, Court of Appeals is going to be stuck with that. Now, I know the defense started. I told them they needed to get some tech person because I think it's provable that the destruction of those interviews, the over recording, was not accidental.
right.
But
Well,
but
I mean, let me intervene right there, and let's talk about the 70 days of interviews in a high-profile case, in a double homicide of two little girls, a case nothing like Carroll County or Delphi had seen before in this manner. The fact that 70 days they want to claim were overwritten. You mean to tell me you're bringing in
I think it's only 7.
7 days?
Yeah, they lost some other interviews, but the recordings that were recorded over were only like the first week or 9 days.
Well,
It was over recorded.
Yeah, those were
so
recorded. What about the 70 days from April through June?
it's always been reported 70 days.
Yeah,
Not the over recordings. I don't believe. You
no,
know,
no,
if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
no. The over recordings were the witness statements that were done in the first week. That was the over recording. The lost,
Yeah,
the quote unquote lost, was the 70 days from April. Oh God, I've got the article right here. The 70
yeah.
days.
And what I'm saying is that the over recording part, I think it's provable technically that could not have been accidental. And I want to interrupt this conversation just a moment to tell Year of the Cat that I'm going to create an alt identity that's apple cider reconstitution.
Say that again. Say that one more time.
I said I wanted to tell Year of the Cat that I am going to create an alt identity and call it apple cider reconstitution. And the reason is Year of the Cat, I'm guessing, is an Al Stewart fan. And apple cider reconstitution is my favorite song of his.
I didn't know Al Stewart had multiple songs that were, well, maybe a little bit before my time, but
I'll send you a link. It's terrific.
okay.
So,
No.
when we have, okay, for example, we have Andrew Baldwin going on Bob Motta's YouTube channel this last week talking about all of the videotape interviews that transpired in Rushville. He stated, we still don't have them. That would be Elvis Fields. That would be Johnny Messer. That would be Rod Abrams. I think Elvis Field was interviewed twice, but he stated that they had requested those from the prosecution. They never got them. And those interviews took place with Click, Murphy, and Ferenczi. And I actually think Holman was present for Elvis Fields. And he said they still don't have them. So when you add it all up, 7 days, 70 days, we don't know who we interviewed. We never went back. I mean, like, we're pulling these people in, we're taking phone extractions, aka Brad Holder, Logan Holder, Patrick Westfall. They're extracting phones. Nobody went back within 72 hours to review the information that was coming in. And we're just supposed to be fine with that. And then on top of that,
we're not fine with it, Amy, but there's nothing we can do about that now. This does not get Rick a new trial now.
Michael, in some states, losing crucial evidence at the beginning of an investigation like this would have tremendous repercussions on the investigation by a court. Am I making that up, or are we now lowering our standards to Carroll County and what is okay with them, and then this biased judge that they brought in, which would be Judge Frangall? Because,
well, I can tell you what the law on it is, Amy. The law on it is that if you can prove that and Gull kind of got the standards wrong, mixed them up, and courts do that from time to time. But she didn't do it in any way she's going to get reversed for. So the deal is that unless you know that the evidence that was destroyed was exculpatory, unless it was intentionally destroyed, then it's potentially exculpatory, and then you can get into the bad faith of the police. But
why else would evidence be destroyed, or why else would evidence be completely obliterated? I'm speaking from I didn't take the bar. I'm not bowing down to an oath that I didn't take. I'm speaking from an outsider looking in, from where the public stands on this matter. And you can't sit here and say, unless you know the evidence was exculpatory. Well, the only way for us to know that is if we had access to the information that has now been obliterated. And
look, I don't make the rules.
I know that you don't make the rules, but what?
Here's what it says. It says, according to the amended motion, prosecutors provided Allen's attorneys with a previously unseen report detailing how all videos between April 28, 2017 and June 30, 2017 had been lost. Those lost tapes come in addition to 2 recorded interviews from February 2017 with men that the defense has indicated were key suspects in the girls' murders, which authorities said were accidentally erased. This is news to the defense.
Okay, so we have lost tapes and over-recorded tapes.
Yeah, we have 2 different things. We have lost from April 28th to June 30, and recorded over on in February of 17, that first week. And this was something that apparently the defense had, they didn't know.
I can prove, I can kind of prove that they're lying about all of it. And I can go into that tedious detail if you want. But the deal is that, I mean, sort of the most horrendous case of mine in this is, I had a former death penalty case. We wanted to get the DNA test. And there had been a court order for the state to preserve the evidence. And the Indianapolis Police Department came in and said, yeah, sorry, we destroyed it. It was just on, schedule, our destruction schedule. It was a really old case. Yeah, so it's gone. And too bad for us.
Yeah, my thing is, though, is in discovery, if you're lost that much, how would the defense even know someone or something even existed if it was lost?
Well, look, the thing you have to do, so I'm defense counsel in this situation. I would have to start deposing all the people who were doing the interview. Whom did you interview? What did they talk? I mean, you basically have to try to reconstruct the record. I don't think they ever did that.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's
now part of the reason I know they're lying about, at least about the list of people, is Mullen said, well, there was no list, then there was, no list for a long time, and then at trial, I guess he said, I have a list that's over in my office. And Holman came in and said, Holman in an interview afterwards said, yeah, we went back and re-interviewed all those people. Okay, well, how did you do that without a list? And by the way, if you re-interviewed those people, did the defense have the results of those interviews? I don't know. I mean, they may have.
I mean, do you as a defense attorney in Indiana know the standard procedure for bringing in a person of interest in any case? It could be a bank robbery, a murder, a rape, or whatever. Is there any standard procedure when they are brought in into interrogation that there is some sort of paperwork or filing done prior to them walking in that room so there's a record of them being there? Is there no
I'm sure.
procedure at all?
Like, was there any piece of paper involving Rick before his first interview? I have no idea. My guess is these departments have different standard operating procedures. You would think,
Well,
hang on, you would think that the officer who's doing the interrogation, or the question, the interviewing, we don't have to call them interrogations. I mean, look, there were a lot of people coming in to just give them information. They weren't all interrogations. You would think that, Mullen and Liggett, would have written a report. Let's write the video of Rick, right? Talking to Mullen and Liggett. You would think that there is a report separate from the video saying, you know, written by Mullen, written by Liggett, I don't know, maybe one by each, saying, you know, Richard Allen came in and talked to us today at such and such a time. We video recorded it, blah, 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 blah. You would think there would be that kind of report. And that's one of the reasons why I know, or I'm pretty certain, Mullen lied when he said we didn't discover the over recording problem till August 2017, because he testified in the it was the suppression hearing, so it was the afternoon after the contempt, and he testified that the normal procedure was for the person doing the report to attach the video to the report. Reports are going to be written after the video, right? So if they were over recorded right away, you would be attaching it to the report, and if the video is not there, you would see it's not there.
Right. So, and that is my point. What due diligence were they doing as investigators when they brought someone in? Because I don't think that they were bringing in every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I think that people were calling in tips, and it was based on the tips who they went out and sought and brought in for an interview. And I would think that there would be some sort of paperwork or some sort of record or transmission that they're going to go out, ask this person to come into the station, sit down, and have a conversation. Of course, the report's going to be written after that. But how many? I mean, even a week going by after all of these people are interviewed, and they claim to have not have known it until when? What was the date that they claim to have clarified? Holy crap, Daniel Pearson, Shelby Hicks, Brad Holder, Patrick Westfall, Logan Holder, all these people that we just had traipse through here and give video interviews to are now missing.
And once there's a post-conviction case, you can start subpoenaing any records that still exist. Look, I just you know, complaining about the lawyers, complaining about the investigation, what they destroyed, whether they destroyed it intentionally. I mean, so far there's a you know, if somebody has a witness who's willing to come forward and say, I know for a fact, and here's how I know personally, those video recordings, both groups were either intentionally over recorded or intentionally lost, that is to say, thrown out. This does nothing for Rick currently.
So, okay, so Skip, when it comes to Daniel Pearson, and there's 2 years worth of information that flooded the social media highway, and you hear Andrew Baldwin claim that he's going to call him to testify, and then he doesn't. What is your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, I go back to that. If you bring somebody in testimony that could impeach. I mean, look, impeaching witness testimony is an important part of the defense's job, right? I mean, they're trying to show somebody, whether it's somebody's credibility, whether they think somebody's just straight out lying or whatever. It's like, if they show that he was there and there's evidence that shows that he was there at the time that a critical witness, a witness that played a big role in the conviction, saw someone, and he was as likely or more likely to be the person she saw. I mean, I don't know how that's not same
So
same
so
same,
so
same thing with Toby.
that's not impeaching evidence. So impeaching evidence just means that I mean, it's a legal term, and maybe in the general, I know exactly what you mean, and you're right, and that's what in the general meaning of impeach. That's what I'm saying is important evidence that impeaches the state's case. But by
Yes,
impeach,
right. Yeah, yeah. It
I mean,
impeaches
I mean,
information.
I mean substantive evidence. You know, substantive evidence. You know, Daniel Pearson was the guy I saw. I'm not talking about more likely. I mean, there really has to be, to get this, you know, keep Rick from spending the next 7 years in prison at least. Um, there has to be pretty devastating stuff,
Right.
and and you
I
know,
guess, I guess the thing. I guess what I'm saying is the theme of the prosecution's case was that it had to be Richard Allen because it was the only person there. This is information that shows that no, that's incorrect. He was not the only person there.
no, but
That could have been.
I'll give you an example. There is a witness. I'm not going to say who it is, who supposedly ID'd Rich Guy from a picture. I mean, somebody out on the trail that day.
Right.
And, you know, that person needs to be talked to.
Sure, absolutely. Same thing. Same thing with when Andy in the pretrial. I forget what exactly the point of it was, but when he asked Holman about the two witnesses, he said Betsy Blair and Sarah Carball always your two primary witnesses. Yes, they were. They've always been. They've been the witnesses. Well, if he could have asked Tobe was Betsy Blair and Sarah Carball always your two primary witnesses? No, Daniel Pearson was for the first 2 years. Now that's impeaching. That's impeaching a witness testimony, and not only is impeaching, it's impeaching the lead investigator's testimony. That seems pretty. And I really, I mean, they were close to get it. If she would have allowed that subpoena for deposition, I think he would have told the truth because he knows what he told her, and she has no reason to lie.
Well,
Hey,
and then
Skip.
Hannah, and what you do is you get Hannah Shakespeare, and then look, he denies making the statement. And then you bring in Hannah Shakespeare to impeach him.
Right. Well, and
And
we've got her stating that on audio.
I understand. I'm just saying technically that's how it would go.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You confront the witness with their statement. Did you say this to Hannah Shakespeare? If he says yes, great. If he says no, then you get Hannah Shakespeare in and say, "Oh yeah, that's what he told me."
Hey,
Right.
And
Skip.
you may be uh, you know more inclined to think old Cove won't lie. I mean, if you look in the motion to strike, the state's response to the motion to correct error, he absolutely lied in his affidavit.
Yeah. Well, he might. I don't know. I think since he knows what he said, and he knows what was.
Let me
There's
put it
just
this way: he either lied in his affidavit, or he lied under oath in front of Gull at the June 23rd, I think it was, 19th or 23rd, safekeeping hearing.
Oh yeah, when they were talking about moving him. Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
the
so
reason for moving.
Right. Yeah. The reason for moving.
hey, Skip.
Yes,
What's
ma'am.
going on with my camera? Um, So there's a question from I have Hypothesis who's asking, question for Skip. Someone asked earlier what DP was wearing on February 13th. Do we have a definitive clothing description for DP that day?
No, I don't. I have no idea what he was wearing. He's never volunteered that.
Okay, so let's kind of switch gears here and talk about Derek.
Again, I can't emphasize this enough, is that what her description of the guy she saw on the bridge. Okay.
You're talking about Betsy Blair, right?
Yeah, it was a guy in his 20s. Guy, I think originally she said like 20 years old, right? And then kind of changed it to he's in his 20s. There was one guy there known to be there in his 20s. One. I mean, sometimes we make this stuff a little harder than what it is. You know, I mean, it's like that's what I said about Michael. Is more likely or as likely. She said exactly the description exactly of him, and he was a singular person of that age there that day.
And
I have no doubt that was him. So she needs to be shown. She needs to be shown a picture of Daniel Pearson and ask, "Is this the guy you saw?"
Yeah, could this be the guy you saw? Yeah.
Not could be. Is it the guy you saw? Yes or no? And maybe it's not going to be good enough.
Yeah. What if she says I don't know, because she never said, she never positively identified Richard Allen. She never said, yeah, that's the guy sitting over there.
Well, there's no way that you can describe a clean shaven 20-something-year-old with brown poofy hair and then say it could have been Richard Allen. It's two completely. The thing with Betsy Blair is she has a full facial description. When you go back to the four girls that we know of, which was Rayleigh Voorhees, Bree Wilbur, and the two younger sisters of Rayleigh, they all have different descriptions.
Right.
But when you go further into what the truth is, and they put Shelby Hicks on the stand, and Shelby Hicks, in a word salad, explains that she bought a new car that she had to take to get fixed, which
right.
That alone makes no sense, but okay, we'll go with that. She took her car to go get it fixed. She is never pinned down on the stand when she picks the car up. But from the time she picks the car up, we keep continuously getting. I'm gonna mute you, Skip, for just a minute, because I think it's your microphone that's causing. I don't know what it is, but we continuously hear we. We picked up my car. We drove to the trails. Oh, I decided to walk out there on the bridge because it was a nice day. Me and Daniel this, me and Daniel that. And then throughout her testimony, shit changes. And it's a sad day when, in a case like this, the defense team doesn't pick up on it. She claims, we left the bridge, we walked down the trail, and we turned right to where we parked at the Mears lot. We then left and we went through we drove to Amish country. We drove through Amish country, and then we drove through Camden. And then he dropped me off at my car. That alone says you and Daniel did not drive together. No one reported seeing a white pickup truck at Mears lot. Where did Daniel park? Shelby claimed that she parked at the mayor's lot and she was driving a 2004 Impala, white slash silver color. We have reports of a white car parked along the side of the road at Mayor's Lot with 30-day tags. Hint, hint, new car she just got has temporary tags. If they got in her car, but they ended up in Daniel's car, where did Daniel park? And then when you have the information coming out from Shelby Hicks's grandfather that she had to go into the police department and explain why her car was where it was, that tells me she drove her car to wherever Daniel's car was parked, left her car, they jumped into Daniel's car, which we know he drove a white pickup truck. They left the area for an X amount of time, and then he brought her back to her car. They never asked about the vehicle of the car. They knew what the vehicle was. They knew the color. They just wanted to talk to the driver. That driver would have been Shelby Hicks.
Correct. I mean, that's the that's the whole thing. I mean, I never understood why. It was obvious, at least to me, from the beginning that that he wasn't being truthful, or they weren't being truthful, and there were just so many secrets. You know, like I said, this mysterious companion, and she didn't see anything, and all this kind of stuff. It's never added up. It won't ever add up. But what she testified to was, I mean, if you can't see the deception there, you can't see you know, it's so vague. It's so, hey, I took my car in, and then next thing you know, it's we.
Mm-hmm.
We took her car, and then all of a sudden that became a we. Okay, when did they become a we? I mean, look.
All you have to do is read her testimony.
Yeah, read her testimony. Yeah. It's conflicting from the very beginning. It's even when Andy asked her, "Hey, what time did you get there?" and she says, "Well, it was 2:30. I remember that because I took my car at 12:40." I don't know. Wouldn't it be more important that what happened after 12:40 that would give her a little more clue about what time she got there? About, hey, yeah, I know that because I picked up Daniel at 2:00, or I got my car was ready at 1:45, or I was in town having lunch, whatever it was. 12:40 in Lafayette to 2:30 in Delphi is pretty insignificant in terms of remembering a time, you know. And look, I've heard people say this because, well, they were out there cheating, and look, okay, maybe that was part of it. Maybe that was part of, hey, you keeping her name out of it and all that kind of stuff. He wanted to stay out of hot water and all that. But at some point, it comes down to this is a double murder case of two little girls. Why are you lying? Why are you flat out lying about your circumstances that day? And why is the girl you're with lying about it and willing to do it at trial under oath? And why? And how is that okay? And I go back to that what Stacey Zener said about in the interview with Murder Sheet, where she said her biggest fear was the defense was going to bring somebody out that was going to destroy her timeline. Yeah, well, it was a hell of a lot closer than she probably believed, that she understands.
Daniel Pearson was that bomb, whether he was involved or not. When you put all of the factors on the line between David McCain, Daniel Pearson, when Daniel Pearson arrived, when Shelby Hicks arrived, where they parked, then you factor in David McCain saying when he parked, there were no other cars there. Then you have to go back and filter in, well, when could that have been? Between Betsy Blair and Shelby Hicks arriving, because I don't believe that Daniel Pearson parked the Mears lot, which would explain, like, just hear me out, which would explain if he parked at the CPS building, why would Shelby Hicks park at the Mears lot, get out of her car, walk up to the trailhead, and turn right to go towards Freedom Bridge when there was ample amount of parking out there at the end of Freedom Bridge? Why would she park at the further distance, get out of the car, and turn right?
Yeah, I agree. I
Or,
know. Look, it's nonsensical. It is. It's totally
and
nonsensical.
then was with all of the information coming in to True Crime Garage that Daniel Pearson was there around 1:30, would Shelby Hicks be attempting to contact Daniel, like, where are you? I don't see your truck. You're not at the farmer's parking spot.
Yeah, and
Would
didn't Betsy Blair say the guy she saw appeared to be looking for someone?
mm-hmm. He appeared to be looking for someone. And could Shelby Hicks Impala be the white car that we see going in on the private drive? We just don't know. And the thing is that we're it's okay that we don't know, but it's not okay that we don't know after a month-long trial.
Yeah. Well, if you go, I mentioned this earlier too about that video that was done at the, taken by someone at the 2019 press conference where they're discussing the white truck at the CPS building that was seen by two witnesses. All right, and Doug
I got
Rice,
hold on. I think I got it. Hold
and
on.
Doug, yeah, Doug Rice has talked about this as well. About they were actually two people in his group in Bridge of Lies that were the witnesses to it. One of the names is even mentioned. Who Dis is the uh, YouTube content creator that has it on their channel. And
Mhm.
they talk about the white truck at the CPS building. About two witnesses saw it. There was someone sitting in it at 1:30. I mean,
Someone was sitting in the white truck at 1:30.
at the CPS building, correct? Yeah, white pickup truck. He even gave Doug Rice a photo of a vehicle similar to what he saw. I'm not going to mention the name, but the name's mentioned in the video on who dis YouTube channel. You can go watch it, and you'll recognize the people involved who are talking about it. And they're credible people. And this person was very upfront about what they saw. They were very talkative about it. Yeah, I saw this white pickup truck at the CPS building. It was at 1:30. I was working. I think Doug shot one of them saw it because they were passing by for work, and then another one saw it because they went home for lunch and saw it. Somebody lived on 300, but they were both clear. Same thing. It was again. It's corroborated testimony where two people are saying, "Hey, they saw the same thing: a white vehicle, a white pickup truck, sitting at the CPS building at 1:30." I mean, that's. I mean, that was somebody. And we've got a one person who we know drove there who is being untruthful and about that fact and what time they got there. That person drives a white pickup truck.
That's Daniel.
Yeah,
But but the
he
thing
look
is that
he could clear all this up. He could clear all. He's not ever going to. He's never going to. He got too deep in it, and he's never going to. And it worked to the benefit of law enforcement because the first 2 years were so. You know, one of the very first things that I saw when I started following the case was I saw a post where it said law enforcement somebody misled law enforcement the first 18 months of the case, and it set the investigation back 2 years, and then when I thought of Carter saying we're just beginning, we're just starting now, um, I think that's the reason they were chasing ghosts for the first 2 years, and to make it work in the prosecution of Richard Allen, they needed all that to disappear. And so what they do, they made it disappear. I mean, if you read Shelby's grandfather, Jim, text, he's really clear about DP went in, the coworker she was with, uh, you know, went in and he was grilled
Let me look
for
for
5 hours by law enforcement. You know, he's admitted he did a sketch. We know he did a sketch, and we know from what Hannah Shakespeare says that he was part of the old bridge guy sketch. Why is it so important for them to shut that up? Why is it so important for them to shut that down and say, no, he did some other sketch and it was this? No. Told her point blank. Yeah, DP is a witness. Look, and it makes sense from a law enforcement standpoint. If you had a witness who saw him coming on from Freedom Bridge, it would make sense that he exited toward the Freedom. If you were in the investigation aspect of it, you'd say, okay, yeah, well, he's left the way he came in. Most people do that. Most people, because you got to get back to where you came from, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I understand them believing that, but them believing that and them believing that was part of the reason they disregarded witness who saw the two girls and saw them walking right in the path of a man on the bridge. And they've made all of that basically go away. And because the truth of the investigation, particularly those first 2 years, is something they just don't want out. They'll never let that out.
I personally, I know that you probably disagree with me, Skip, but I personally believe that a lot of this was missed by law enforcement because law enforcement was focused on the Odinists. They thought that this murder was a religious based murder, and we know that immediately they jumped on uh, Brad Holder, Elvis Fields, Patrick Westfall. And during this same time, you've got Daniel Pearson coming forward and giving fluff stories. And I just feel like they're like, oh, well, we know your dad. Your dad's in law enforcement. Your uncles are a part of city council. Thanks for coming in. We're going to take all of your information. He got off easy because they were focused over here. And I don't think that they've ever looked back until 2023 when law enforcement comes knocking on Cheyenne's door. This is already after Richard Allen has been arrested. He's already been sent off to Westville in the safekeeping bullshit hearing. And they knock on Cheyenne's door in 2023 asking her about a photograph and trying to get her to confirm. Well, first it was, is this Cheryl Loeffler? No, that's Shelby Duncan. Oh, this is Shelby Hicks? No, it's Shelby Duncan. And then a third time. So you're saying this is Shelby Hicks? No, Shelby Duncan. Now, why would they be knocking on Cheyenne's door in 2023, worrying about that group of people if it wasn't significant after they had already arrested Richard Allen?
Right. Well, and you it's important to know that which branch of law enforcement was doing that. And I think well, I don't think, I'm pretty sure that the differences that between the ISP and the FBI were much greater than we'll ever know. And I think we let them go, made them get back the file, da da da. And then they came up with that whole BS about, oh, well, we did a peer review with GBI. That's not that. There was no peer review. There was no peer review. GBI doesn't do that. GBI did some forensics for the ISP because of their problems with the FBI. I don't know if it was to, not keep the FBI out of it or whatever. But if you had the FBI there and all their resources, why would you need the GPI for that? And then come up with some story about a peer review. There was no peer review. I mean, I found that out straight from the source. They got laughed at when I asked about it. They're like, peer review. They could, just like ISP, we're a private organization. ISP couldn't afford that. They wouldn't have asked us for a peer review. They had the FBI right there. You said
Yeah, well, I mean, a peer review or no peer review, I think that Carroll County and ISP had their own agenda. They wanted to be the ones solely working this case, and I it first of all, the what like when you look at the recent CAD report that was put out,
mm-hmm.
and you realize that the phone had been started to ping. They were pinging the phone. I think it was 6:02 p.m. all the way up until like 2 o'clock in the morning. All these pings are going on, and all the dispatches that are updating on the CAD are giving the same report. It's pinging at the Well Street Tower, and they give the coordinates. But simultaneously, you have law enforcement out publicly saying, well, the phone's pinging all over town. The phone's pinging all over town. Then the first order of business is, let's cancel the dogs that we called in to do the search. Then let's call off the search. That's because I will die on this hill. I believe that AT&T was capable of pinging that phone and giving a proximity location as to where that phone was based on the coordinates of the cell tower. That's where they
No,
got the
no,
cell phone
no.
is pinging. Well, that's my opinion, because they were able to tell us in the search warrant for Ron Logan where his cell phone had pinged.
That was GPS info. That was not cell tower.
If the phone carrier is pinging the phone and it's bouncing
The
off the same
GPS
cell
info
phone
was
tower,
the GPS info for Ron Logan was not not cell tower.
so where did that come from? Oh, sorry.
AT&T and the satellite, they're separate things entirely.
So
How with GPS? I mean, GPS can get pretty accurate. Pretty accurate in exactly where the phone is, right? I mean, where exactly?
Absolutely. I'm just saying it's not cell tower.
Right, right. Well,
I'm
so
just
where
saying
was
it's
Logan?
not the cell.
Do we know where he exactly was? Was he on up by his house? Was he by the bridge? Was he? I mean, where was he?
We know Logan was somewhere near the bridge at 2 something, right?
Right,
205, and he was out on his property, sort of the above where the girls were found. I don't like to call it the crime scene.
right.
Um, and I think that was a little after 10. I think it's interesting. We don't know. I mean, that's what's in the FBI search warrant application. What we don't know is whether his phone has, what the GPS info on that phone was in between. And I'm kind of curious why we don't know that.
so Michael, let me ask you this. So if we're looking at a 500-mile radius, which is generally what a cell phone tower, if you're within that radius, your phone can ping off that tower.
Did
For
you say
what?
500 miles?
Hold on. Let me go back and look. I might be off on that, but
It's more like 10 miles, 30 maybe.
okay. So let's say 30 miles, a 30-mile radius around a cell phone tower. What is the benefit of having, what would be the benefit of law enforcement asking the carrier to ping the phone if the carrier can't pinpoint a proximity location within yards or meters of where the phone might be?
Well, one, they find out if it's online. Two, they might get it. They'll get a direction from the if the cell company gives them the sector information. And in an area. So I don't know where the second cell tower is, but in Delphi, the third one, which was at least what I'm referring to, the third one was across the street from Ron Logan's house. My understanding is it wasn't operative. You can still, if you can't get the perfect position, but you can get, if you can get the thing pinging off two sectors of two different cell towers, you're going to get a more approximate location because you'll get two directions, obviously. And the whole thing about triangulating is when you have three cell towers, then the intersection of 3 points is going to give you pretty close to where it is. But
so why do you think that? Why do you think in consecutive order we would have law enforcement coming out publicly in interviews on the 13th saying the cell phone is pinging all over town? Where would they have gotten that information from?
Now, what it could be is, so they had, and this is a thing that popped on at 4:34, right after it's basically the AT&T equivalent of the Google thing, Find My Phone. And so, yeah, there's some connection, so you can sign up for, with this service from AT&T, but the information, maybe it comes through AT&T, but it's not pinging the damn phone. It is so the information would come in from pinging the phone, but it's gonna be GPS info from whatever service they have running the satellites, and yeah, that might go back to the cell company, but it's not our info. And I just don't know the details of that. But the idea that the CAD report, I mean, I know you've said that location data can be passed through. I think somebody was trying to claim falsely that it pings usually include GPS info. That's not true.
No,
have
no. I didn't say GPS info. It would, from my research, that a cell phone ping directly from the cell phone carrier provider could give a proximity location within several yards. It's not going to be exact.
No.
And
not a cell ping. It just can't. I mean, show me the page where it says that. It all you get is a direction. You might get strength of signal, but I don't think so. I think it's just the phone's on it, the phone's not on it, and you get the sector it's in, which gives you a range of direction. It gives you 120 degrees. If it's a 3-sector tower, you get 120 degrees of possible direction. Just the phone pinging off thing.
So law enforcement was just grasping at straws, huh?
Well, not if they were, no, because I think there was something about the Patty family trying to use this, family Find My Phone thing.
Uh-huh.
and that's a different thing. That's whatever that is not from cell tower info. And it may not matter. It's just where this information is likely to show up, and I don't know what they meant when they said it was pinging all over town. I don't know whether they mean it was in different sectors of the Well Street Tower. I don't know whether it means it's off the second tower, which I haven't bothered to look up. I will say, and I don't think anybody should go crazy about this, but that phone, Libby's phone, on their way to trail, pinged once off of a tower in Florida. It doesn't mean they took a detour to Florida.
So Lindsay says RTT pings do show distance to the person's location as well as directionality. It will still be just an estimate, however. That's what I
don't know how it does this. I mean, I'd love to see the guy. I mean, Julie Melvin was all over the guy who does the triangulation. You wouldn't need triangulation if it gave you this and direction. It doesn't.
My computer is not allowing me to switch windows or even add you guys to the screen tonight. I don't know why, and I apologize. But that was my understanding of it, was that the pinging of the phone could give a proximity location, not exact, but in a sector, and that the one thing that the pings did show was that the phone was online and capable of receiving a signal. And I forget what the last ping was, but we know that the phone at 4:30 something in the morning had a lot of activity. I don't know if you guys can still hear me. Skip, are you there?
No, I can hear. Yeah, I think there's a lot of again. I'll defer to Michael and the legalities of things, but there seems like there's a lot of places where the appellate attorneys or the new defense attorneys or old ones or whatever have avenues, paths to go down. I suppose however they think, whatever they think's the best way. From my standpoint, everything I've said tonight, I have proof of. And I'll be happy to share it with whoever would like it, needs it, wants it, whatever. Just so we can get to the truth, because that's what I know. The one thing I know for sure about this case is we haven't been told the truth about hardly anything, and it's and that needs to be told. I mean, I think for everybody involved, the truth needs to be told, and whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, whether it makes so and so look good or bad or whatever, the truth needs to be told. And if it helps get an innocent man get out of jail, if that's the case, then great. That's the whole point. I haven't been about looking at persons of interest. I've been the things that I've been looking at are about trying to find things that show the truth, and trying to find things that possibly, if the truth is that Richard Allen's not involved, then helps with showing that and could help him going forward. I'm not. I don't know that you'll ever be able to convince me who exactly the killer of this is, because the investigation was so screwed up, and You know, there's a reason why law enforcement has to follow protocols and procedures. You know, they have a higher standard, and they have to. And these guys didn't, and and somehow I go along with Michael's theory about the black robe syndrome. I think that was in play here with the judge, and I think that I'm not calling anybody out criminal or anything. I'm just saying that, like I said, you could say McClellan did a good job by narrowing it down to only Richard Allen could be there, and he was the only one, and everything else was, gone, disappeared, lost, recorded over, whatever. Um, Convenient. But as convenient as it was, um, I think that's what happened. And so if whoever, I'm just want to help however I can. And the research that I've done has led me to some things that, maybe they can help. I hope they can.
Well, so what you have skipped for the most part, I think, and I'm not saying it's not important, but certainly for the community, you know, showing the different ways that we know people have been misled, people have lied, all the rest. But the things that you have that can be shown are these are the people that now need to be talked to if they're willing to talk. I mean, basically, this is now either forensic evidence and either forensic evidence that disproves the state's case against Rick, or people's lips moving with personal knowledge that disprove the state's case. Those are the two most important things at the moment, to me anyway. And people are certainly free to disagree.
Yeah. My thing is this: is that can people realize that the investigation was so screwed up? Can they admit to that and still be still keep their beliefs? Can they still say, "Oh, I think Richard Allen's guilty," or whatever? But I just know this investigation was a joke, and I know there were some things that were done intentionally. Can they do those things, or those things they have to keep that separate? They have to uh, keep up this train of thought about, well, investigation wasn't really that screwed up, and losing 70 days of this and that's not that abnormal. All of those things. Can they come to that, those two things, or those two things uh, mutually exclusive? I mean, can you admit that you still think Richard Allen could be guilty, but also admit that this investigation was one of the most screwed up ever, and they've lied about a lot of stuff? Are those two things possible? Do they go together? I see people.
Yeah, and I think that goes with the people who, you know, I mean, I really think for the most part, people who people who think Rick Allen is guilty and was involved in this, they just ignore too many. I'm not talking about screwed up investigation. I think they're just ignoring too many too many established facts that Rick Allen being involved are just not consistent with. And we can go from the headphone activity to, well, there's a bunch of stuff.
But to the timeline where we cannot fit him in the timeline without at least 5 people on either side of him seeing him. There's it's just not plausible. But from the Carroll County standpoint, we can keep saying that these people need to be talked to, but there's nobody right now working on the side of justice for real justice, whether the outcome of that is Rick is ultimately a part of this and guilty, or justice for Abby and Libby. Justice is a fair trial, all of the cards being put on the table, and Rick being given a fair shot to defend himself. No one is pursuing that right now in the proper within the proper channels of they have a right to do what needs to be done. It's going to take people who just are willing to say, fuck all of the rules because they did, and let's dig. Let's reach out to these people. Let's go track down these people. Let's get them on record with what they have to say. And in hopes that by the time the gavel falls, and if it doesn't fall in Rick's favor, we have the information that maybe they will only use 50% of it. I don't know how else to go about this, but I do know that the state of Indiana considers this case closed. The state of Indiana, Nick McClelland, Carroll County, they all consider this case closed. And the closer an appeal gets to being complete, and whatever is written in that appeal, however threatened Carroll County or the state of Indiana feels by that appeal, makes me more afraid for Rick's life.
Yeah,
And
I agree. The one thing that McClelland said that he was right about was he said when he was talking about certain information being kept out because it would confuse the jury. Yeah, the truth about this case would definitely confuse the jury, but that's the truth. That goes to the truth. Okay, he tailored this down to some that where it fit into this little bag or this little box, and there was one guy
Well,
out there and two little girls out there, and nobody else was in existence during that time period, so it had to be this guy, right? That's not
well,
even close. That's not even close to the truth.
yeah, and fair,
Is that good? Is that good lawyering, or is that what I mean? Is that an officer of the court doing his job, or is that good lawyering trying to win a conviction?
it's maybe a little of both, and he had some
Okay.
help from the judge, and he had. I don't want to bash the trial lawyers, but they're the trial lawyers didn't didn't do it. I mean, I haven't read the transcript. I don't know about the objections. I wasn't there. I watched Andrea Burkhart night after night, and her emphasis was how terrible Gull was, and I like to quote her. She's seen a lot of bad judging, but never seen anything like this. Um, look, uh, yeah, I just want to develop admissible evidence that basically blows up the state's case. So
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. But at this stage in the game, with as far as like I've said, Carroll County, Nick McClelland, ISP, everybody involved on that side of the fence who are supposed to be the true justice seekers, not the win at all costs side of the fence. How do we obtain that information when we're talking about witnesses that are beyond the age of could they be here next year? The things that transpire behind the scenes where people feel threatened and feel like they're just better off to walk away and not say a word, leave me alone. I'll take myself off social media, not going to give anybody any information because they feel as though their truth can cost them. How do we obtain factual information that is going to be legitimized by a court at this point in time in this stage of the game, besides sitting back and waiting to see what happens with the appeal? Because a year and a half down the road, a lot could change. And I know that you, Michael, are bound by the oath. You're an attorney. I respect that. However, I am not an attorney. I have not taken an oath. And there are things that the public can do and the research that we can get done. I don't want to use the word harass, but we can play on the heartstrings of some of these witnesses by begging and pleading, like, listen, this man needs your help. And he needs your help because there's two little girls whose deaths have never been explained. So I don't want anyone to get it twisted that I am 1000% convinced that Rick Allen is innocent, but I am 1000% convinced that this man did not get a fair trial. And the odds right now of him getting a fair trial are 1 in 1,000, if not more, because the state does not want to ever admit that they're wrong. No higher court ever wants to overturn a lower court. You have to move mountains. But in the meantime, there's a man sitting in jail, rotting away, not only physically, but mentally. And there's two little girls who we do not have answers for. It's frustrating. And I know for you, Michael, it's frustrating. Skip, I know for you, you've invested so much time into this timeline and these people out there on the trails. I'm with you. When I started this vault series, I thought I was going to be able to run all the way through. And I got to February 13th, and Quester and I have still not been able to get past it because there's something not right about this timeline on that day. There are too many people. There are too many unanswered questions. There are too many lies. And the state literally wanted the jury to believe that there was this group of 4 girls and Rick Allen. Then there's this random older woman making laps with her Fitbit, and she saw no one. That's who they wanted you to believe was out there. And the list of people that I have out there is not, I think so. The list of people that are out there, I have actual factual statements, not directly to me, but they've either done an interview with law enforcement, they've posted it on their social media, or I've been able to directly confirm it. Or there's photos to back it up. And I'm talking upwards of 12 to 15 people between the hours of 1 p.m. and 4 p.m.
Yep. Well, I mean, look, it's obvious. We've read through Shelby Hicks's testimony, through the transcripts, that she's been deceptive. Whose benefit? Whose benefit was it for her to be deceptive? Why was it important that story was not told correctly? Who benefited from that, and who allowed it? Who allowed it to be? Oh, well, you've read it. I mean, I'm still trying to find hardly anything in there that's true. How is that justice? How is a witness going? Whether you think that's significant, insignificant, it was apparently significant enough that someone would be deceptive and it would be okay. You know?
And you've got Diener on the record admitting that she coached these defense witnesses.
Yeah. And her biggest nightmare was that the defense was going to call somebody who was going to blow her timeline up. Well, if they were so sure and they had narrowed it down to it was only Richard Allen, how would it have been possible for them to blow her timeline up? It wouldn't even have been possible. Why would that even cross her mind? That should have been her. She should have slept easy. That should have been the last thing on her mind, because she knew, hey, there was only Richard Allen and the girls. Everybody else was, kind of around at some time, but not the right time. there shouldn't have been any reason for her to be worried about her biggest nightmare to be someone was going to blow up her timeline. But I thought that was an incredibly telling statement that she worried after coaching those witnesses somebody was going to come along and blow up her timeline. Well, if what they said McClelland's entire case that he put forth was right and it was all correct, they should have had no worries about it at all, because there was nobody out there that could have blown it up.
Mm-hmm.
But she still had that fear.
Look, Yellow Jacket's already with the car thing has already blown up the timeline.
No, look, that's great. I mean, Yellow Jacket's one of the sharpest people out there. I've always thought that. I trust
But
the
if
information.
that's not so if that's not his car, the state has all the video. Obviously, they didn't use, so they had to insist he came the back way because they couldn't find the damn car on the business video. And if the car's not, or they couldn't find the black car on the business video.
Right. Now when did that?
Or they found the gray car. What?
When did they start looking at the cameras?
Yeah, I don't know, but they've got the video. They've got the video from a dozen businesses, I think, for that afternoon.
Right.
Well, the Hoosier Harvest Store camera, the video from the Hoosier Harvest Store camera, the FBI went out there and got, I believe, within a week. And I've shown it in one of the Delphi vaults that they picked it up and they reviewed it. However, Steve Mullins claimed that after Richard Allen was arrested, he stated he had to go back to the Hoosier Harvest Store to review the video to see what cars were on there. Now, you would have thought that he would have known on the back of his hand what cars were on that Hoosier Harvest Store camera. And then he sees supposedly this black car. Then he goes over to the CPS to confirm. I'm sorry, I think I said after Rick Allen was arrested. This was once this lost, magical tip appeared. He then went to the Hoosier Harvest Store camera to check on the video. And then he went over to CPS, took the photographs, and thought that he had a car on the video that matched it. Okay, okay. He's allowed to do that, I guess. But what we should have been shown at trial is the video in its entirety. And every single car that passed through there should have been shown. And people who drove those cars should have been called as a witness to give a timestamp. I mean, Jesus Christ, Sarah Carball claimed she drove by that area 4 times that day. We've got David Riley, who showed up at Mears lot, but we don't have his car. We have Dave McCain. We have Shelby Hicks. We have Cheyenne Mills. We have Daniel Pearson. We have the Abbotts. We have Maya Abbott, who supposedly was there on a moped with her boyfriend. Then we have her dad, Carl Abbott, who was floating down Deer Creek in a canoe. Then you've got Brian Moss, who was out there earlier in the day walking his dog. Then you've got Brad Heath driving back and forth from the Andersons lot to wherever. There are numerous cars on that Hoosier Harvest Store camera that could have established the comings and going of everybody there, but they only wanted to show us those that fit their narrative.
Well, then we get into defense lawyer bashing, because the defense lawyers were certainly free to put all that stuff up. I mean, look.
I didn't say that. You did.
Yeah, but I don't know what's on it, so I don't know what. And I think there's a report out there. At some point, they said all the cars were accounted for, which means they must have known that. I mean, which to me means that that black car was accounted for, and they actually know whose the hell's that was, and then they misrepresented that it was Rick's.
Yeah. Well, I think Michael, you and I were both told that at the same time, that all of the cars on the Hoosier Harvest Store camera back in 2017, law enforcement claimed they were all accounted for.
Yeah,
But they didn't
yeah.
even they didn't even ask Betsy Blair about a vehicle, nor did she offer any information about it for 2 years, till March of 2019, and she
And
supposedly
they did,
saw the
and they
right
might
car.
not have need. They might not have needed to, Skip. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. They might not have needed to because what? All the cars were accounted
Right.
Well, and then on top of that, when they finally did ask Betsy Blair about the car that she claimed that she saw, then they wanted to shut her up. They didn't even want her to testify to that. And Judge Gall made it an asinine freaking ordeal. Yeah, let's, let her off the stand today, and the defense can recall her if she wants to, if they want her to give that testimony.
Well,
Why was
and I don't. Again, I don't want to bash the lawyers, but they were certainly free to like put up a picture of a Mercury comet and say, "Is this the car you saw?" And then they were free to put up a picture, the picture of Rick's car for the jury. I mean, look, there's really simple stuff, and like all of this will be terrific for a new trial, but we got to get the damn new trial.
yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
I know this, I'm sure to you, Michael, that some of this stuff is, you've been there, done that with all of the cases that you've worked. But there's some things for us, the public, that I think I can speak on behalf
No,
of, that is not trivial. It's not
no,
trivial.
I'm not saying it's trivial. And like to generate public interest. I mean, all the lies, all the things that are inaccurate. How awful go. I mean, everything about this case is how Rick was shipped off to Westville. That that collusion between Lazenby and Judge Diener. I mean, no, the
Mhm.
whole thing is terrible. And yes, but we also got to get people who are willing to talk.
Mhm. And without going out, I mean, without going outside the box, I don't know how that's going to happen, because it's definitely not going to come from the state side. They're very happy and pleased with themselves that they were able to pull off the biggest ruse in the state of Indiana, to convict someone without actually having the evidence to convict someone. And they walked away from this case as if it was a slam dunk. And I would have to say that 60%, 60% of the community in Indiana who don't follow these cases as closely as the rest of us, only hear bits and pieces on the media that's reporting on it, are thinking that they got it right. But no one ever stops to ask like the real questions. For example, one of the biggest lies I feel that has been told in this case from its onset all the way through trial is, that be a gun.
Oh, I
That
mean,
be,
that they got away with that is just incredible.
that be a gun is not on the audio.
Yeah, that I can't believe they allowed that. I mean, because when a police officer testifies, that comes off as an expert witness,
It
right?
does. It does. And
whether he is or not is kind of irrelevant because it comes across as a someone in the public's trust is telling us that's what's being said. He's the only. I mean that's the craziest thing I've ever. I can't believe that was allowed. I mean, isn't that? I mean, was it objected to? Was that, hey, he's speculating? He's not an expert witness. He's not a trained, doesn't have a trained ear. I mean, or is it just the fact that he's saying, yeah, that's what I think is said, but it's coming off as an expert witness because he's a police officer. So the jury sees it as, well, that must be what it says, no matter what I hear or whatever.
Well, and that was the that is the prelude to this unspent round that had to be fired for them to say this was a match to Rick's gun.
Yeah.
That be a gun, and this hypothetical, we hear a gun being racked, which you don't hear in the video. So that be a gun is not said. You don't hear a gun being racked. The jury only sees the video, 3 times? And all 3 times it's a different video. It's the video that was extracted from her phone. It was the enhanced video, and then it was the stabilized video. All of them
we really don't know. I got to say, we really don't know what they saw. I mean, we really don't.
Yeah, but we know it was 43 seconds that all of us out here had the ability, and it took, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks for all of us to pretty much review the video, because it's 43 seconds is not a long time. And you get so hung up on being enamored on what you're expecting to watch, because it was made out to us that this 43-second video couldn't be released to the public because it was so scary. It was so tragic. And then when it comes out, you're like, what is this the real thing? Because this is nothing what I had built up in my brain that I was going to be watching when it came to this video. And
they had to establish the gun, right? Because you've got a cartridge found on the other side, so they had to establish that he had a gun to put the cartridge with, right? But they didn't even do a good job of that. It was like,
no, they never explained,
and a racking that nobody can even hear. Plus the racking, if it took place there, how the hell did the cartridge end up on the other side of the creek down the hill?
Right, 1,000,000%. They didn't.
So they didn't even establish it well. But it was like, I mean, I understand what they were trying to do. They needed to put a gun in his hand to make the cartridge they found at the crime scene relevant. But they didn't even do that. They just made shit up. That be a gun, and racking that nobody can hear, that doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah, but it came out of law enforcement's mouth. So, that is the judge allowing shit to go on in her courtroom that she knows damn well how it's going to affect the jury. And then you've got Jerry Holman getting on the stand claiming that the sticks were an undoing. He's describing his theory of what the sticks mean, but I'll be damned, the defense be allowed to describe what their theory of the sticks mean. It's just.
Yeah, and that might be a problem. That might be a problem in the appeal. Again, I haven't looked at the transcript. I'm kind of trying to spend my time on other things. That'll be for the appellate lawyers. That could be not permitting them to do that. Maybe not, depending on how they objected, might be Sixth Amendment violation, right to put on a defense. I mean, I absolutely agree that, for a cop to be able to get up there, and I think they said, Judge, that this opened the door.
It did. They did. They said this opened the door. She's like, no, not today.
Well, and that may be something Stacy and Mark pick on. I mean, it would certainly be high on my list.
I mean, that's almost as good as, hey, let me go Google it right quick.
All of it.
Well, and there is a thing in appeals, cumulative error, and you add up the errors and just say the trial was unfair. There are reasons I don't want to go into that. I'm a little worried about, that. I think there's, but one thing I've suggested is, I don't know whether it goes on Andrea's channel or on Bob's, but I think Kara and Andrea ought to get together either on a live with Andrea or together on a live with Bob. Talking about the possible ways to structure an appeal. I mean, I could do it, but I'm suggesting it, so I'm not. I don't want to invite myself to any parties.
I'm never invited to any parties.
Well, I kind of invited myself tonight, but I wanted to get the Kay Weber stuff out, and here I am 2.5 hours later.
Yeah.
I'm the guy who I'm the guy who comes to the party. Oh, I'm just dropping in for a minute.
And then the next thing you know, you're doing a striptease on the bar.
I've drunk all the booze. I've drunk all the booze. Eaten all the food.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Is that what Michael's known around Bloomington for? Dancing on the tables or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. The list of arrests for disorderly conduct is long rap sheet.
Oh.
All right, guys. Well, I know for me, and I think Skip, it's a work night.
Yeah.
Michael, you probably get to sleep in tomorrow.
No, I'm in my last 4 days of a death race with a long list of stuff to do, because I am actually leaving on Tuesday for my first even semi-vacation in 8 or 9 years.
Nice. Well, enjoy.
Yeah, and if anybody, I know I kind of I didn't pay as close attention to just because I'm not capable of the chat. If anybody has any questions, they'll put them in the comments down below. I'll answer all of them. I'll get to all of them at some point. I'll get to all of them tonight or tomorrow.
There's tons. I just kind of had to. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it tonight because it's a work night, and here it is already 10:15. So.
Skip, do you have a moment for a short call after this?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, buzz me.
Amy, thank you as always for the opportunity. I'm beating a particular drum, and I really don't mean it to drown out the drum you're beating.
Oh no, we're kind of like in a it's like an orchestra. We don't have to beat to the same drum, as long as we stay on beat. So
again. Yeah, listen. Right. I appreciate the invite and the opportunity. Hopefully, somebody found something out of it that was enlightening or something interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Skip, I will have you back on here soon. We will continue to talk and go through all this stuff. I don't know what is going on with the internet tonight. My camera's acting up. Everything's acting up.
Notice, everybody, she says she's having Skip back on again soon.
Michael, you have a wrench. You're always on. You have a wrench. You're always
Uh,
on.
Hey, before I get accused of the kumbaya, everybody can at least try to be kind to one another. I mean, try
Yeah,
not to, you know, we don't want somebody to suffer because of misunderstandings amongst ourselves. You know,
that's right. And this, we cannot. This like this like this community, this case. We are we're the minority as a whole. We cannot be divided. We can't and get anything accomplished.
I agree with that.
by the way, my information, I mean, I don't want to prolong this, but my information is that the reaction to the Hulu documentary is overwhelmingly, I mean, despite all the pro prosecution stuff, is that Rick Allen is innocent.
I mean, that's I think once if the truth ever gets revealed, I think that will be the predominant feeling.
Yeah,
Just hopefully that'll get out. Just hopefully everybody that plays a part in it do enough, whether it's you,
Andy,
Yellow Jacket, Amy, whoever, tells the story enough and in a convincing manner that people say, hey, something's not right here.
yeah. Despite the world we live in, there are still some people, about half the country, for whom facts matter.
mhm.
That may be a little. You may be overestimating that a little bit. Half the country.
I mean, sometimes you got to make some noise, and sometimes you got to go against the grain. To be honest,
Right.
and sometimes you have to say the hard things that a lot of people might be thinking but don't know how to say it. And I think there's nothing worse in this country right now is to acknowledge that the people that we have given all the power to would betray us. And I'm talking judges and I'm talking law enforcement. And the one thing that everyone fails to realize is that a badge does not make someone less human. And I think a lot of people think that because someone wears a badge or someone carries a title above their or a placard on their door, that makes them, a saint. And it does. That is only going to happen if we, the people, hold them accountable. And I think that's the biggest fear is that a lot of people just willingly give that 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 trust to these people and just assume that they're trustworthy, and that's not always the case. And I'm not by any means saying that law enforcement across the country is corrupt or judges are corrupt. I'm saying when you come across an area of a really a small county like Carroll County where they think no one's watching, and there's years of infestation of wrongdoing, and you scratch my back, I scratch yours, underhanded, rulings from the bench. It becomes infested. And once it reaches a boiling point, which I feel like in this case it did, everybody's scrambling, and I'm sure that there's people scrambling who don't even know why they're scrambling. But it's all about self-preservation, and there's people out there who don't want to believe that type of behavior exists, especially from elected officials.
Well,
And
the problem with Delphi, with Rick Allen's case, is the motive for the self-preservation. That is to say, why did law enforcement so clearly screw the pooch on this investigation?
I don't even have as big an issue with why they screwed the pooch, because those kind of things happen. It's the result of screwing the pooch, what came after, and the creating of such a contentious environment for everybody out there that people are scared to come forward with the truth. And that's the part that is frustrating to me, and really, to be honest with you, angers me, because they're responsible for a lot of the contention and like I said, the contentious environment that's been created in this, and that's unacceptable. That's not that's that's anti-truth. That doesn't allow the truth to get out, because people are live in fear that they're going to do something and be and something will happen to them. They'll be doxxed or hacked or whatever, and that's not acceptable.
A mistake here or there is one thing. The amount of stuff that happened here cannot be unintentional, and that they specifically ignored Ron Logan is just, to me, unimaginable, especially after May, when they got the tip from Reese about Ron Logan's confession, and then when they talked to Reese in June of 2017, and Unified Cabal didn't want to hear about any of it.
Yeah. Well, when some of the basic things are ignored, like people lie, that there's a reason why people lie about an alibi, or things like that, and they just ignore that as something. Oh well, I guess he had his reasons. No, real law enforcement people understand that. Hey, there's a reason why someone's lying in a double murder case.
Look,
About dumb things. About dumb things. What time they got there, who they were with. Those are insignificant dumb things that amount to nothing in a double homicide, unless they have something to hide.
Right.
The FBI in March of 2017, the FBI established probable cause to search Ron Logan's house. You add a confession to that, and there is at least probable cause to arrest him.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, but no one is gonna sit. I've been to Delphi numerous times, and no one is going to convince me that he had to create an alibi to hide the fact that he was driving. Everyone knew he was driving. He had been driving for several years without a license, visiting all of the restaurants in town, all of the bars. Everyone knew he was driving. That was not the reason that he had to create an alibi.
Well, and more importantly, he created the alibi before anyone knew an alibi would be necessary.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. That's suspicious. I guess they didn't fall into their.
Well, but that's where I don't want to open the whole conspiracy can of worms, and I'm not easily persuaded to conspiracies. But you've got a case to solve. It's the biggest murder case in your county, at least since November. um, I'm talking about Flora. Um, two girls sliced up in the woods on a sunny February day, and you got probable cause to arrest somebody, and you don't do it? Seriously?
Well, and I'm just going to say this, that I feel big mistakes were made early on in the investigation, starting with the cell phone pings and calling off the dogs and then calling off the search. Then you get into someone like Ron Logan, who allegedly could have been involved in some serious child pornography And they dig into that and they find out who's actually really involved. And it's not just, Cowboy Ron over there on his 40 acres of land. There's some real big names involved. Now we got a problem, and are we willing to expose the problem, or are we going to try to cover it up?
But I think by that time Ron Logan's dead from COVID, and they would have actually, if they'd arrested Ron Logan in June of 2017.
Well, maybe I don't think. Well, they raided his house in March. Prior to that, they had raided Keegan Klein's house, and they let him walk for 3 years. So I really don't have faith in any kind of good judgment that any of them were using at the time. I mean, I just don't. And we still don't know. And I'm still waiting on someone to take me up on my offer to go out there to Miami County and review. There are documents in Keegan Klein's case that are available, but you have to go there to the Miami courthouse and sit there and look at them on a computer. It's not going to be the Dropbox.
Send me the list, and I might make it. I got Chris Bynum to visit up there at some point.
Yeah, I do. I'll send you what they claim to be available, but you have to go there in person to view. I know it's not the Dropbox because the Dropbox is sealed. Duh.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I enjoyed it.
Till next time.
Good talking to you guys. Thanks,
all right, I'll have you guys back on again. All right, good night.
Sounds great. Bye.
Bye.